All right, folks, it's another edition of the online dinner party. You know, at some point or another, we'll have those lovely mystery guests showing up. So I'll be revealing some clues about who they may be. And that means that there'll be some items going across the screen telling you who they may be. Of course, there'll be some famous figures of the past, maybe from the world of entertainment, maybe from the world of politics, maybe from the world of crime. Who knows where I may decide to find these lovely mystery guests from? I know that y'all always enjoy that aspect of the online dinner party. So definitely looking forward to revealing my clues of my three mystery guests. And of course, it is Women's History Month, so I've been trying to keep it within that theme of women that are very positive and doing a lot of positive things in their community. All is quiet here in Durham, North Carolina. We had a little bit of rain earlier today, so that was one of the things that was going on. And I did hear from my younger brother who was making sure that I knew that there were some vaccine shots that were available and that were out there for me to go take that lovely vaccine as we're trying to fight this whole pandemic and try to get into some semblance of normality. So my younger brother had given me a call and let me know that one of our local high schools has got those shots available between the hours of 7 and 8. So that is Southern High School here in Durham, North Carolina. So I need to go ahead and make an appointment. I've already heard from some friends that have already done that in one form or fashion or another. As a matter of fact, one of my coworkers from Measurement Incorporated told me that they are going, I think, later on today. So they may already have had their shot and all of that. And then I know a good friend of mine, part of the IBM TV family, said he's going to get his on it tomorrow. So a lot of folks are doing what they can to try to make things get back to some semblance of normality. We don't know what that semblance of normality will look like. I'm hearing a lot of people are thinking it's going to be hybrid in terms of like schools and entertainment and all of that. I'm actually on the board of directors for the Carolina Theater, and I know that we're looking at probably not till maybe late summer or early fall before getting back in some sort of full swing of doing events. I mean, they are doing virtual events. They are going to have some events that'll be coming around. I understand that one of the churches that rents the facility will be starting to have their service with limited occupancy and all of that. So things are slowly trying to get back to some semblance of normality. And of course, I know a lot of folks are following the NCAA basketball, which is a whole different way of doing it, all being done in the bubble. In the case of the men's, it's all being done in the state of Indiana. So that's one of the things that are going on. And of course, we did have that tragedy that happened earlier this week as well with another one of those mass shootings. So definitely our thoughts and prayers do go out to the folks that were victims of that. So a lot of things are going on in society, and a lot of things continue to go on in society as we deal with a lot of issues that are going on in the world. So that's just some of the thoughts of some of the things that I've got going on. And like I said, I did have work with Measurement, and that was grading those lovely test papers of those kids and all. But that particular project has wound down. So now I've got to wait for them to give me a call about another one, and we'll see what that happens and when that transpires. But you know, I'm keeping busy with things here on IBM TV as well as a number of the other platforms that I am part of as well. As a matter of fact, I know that tomorrow I've got my blues show at WCOM. You know, we're still trying to line up new shows for that as well. And that's one of those very popular low power radio stations that is around the country. They may not have the greatest signal in the world, but with the internet, that means that you can still go very far, even if the actual physical signal maybe only goes a couple of miles or things of that nature. But with the internet, you can have a low power signal and still travel around the internet. And that's one of the things that WCOM does. So it travels around the internet and therefore travels around the globe. So that's some of the things that I've got going on, but I'm getting ready to bring in my guest, the Silver Fox, and she's doing some amazing things and all of that. DJ is over there in Florida. I've had the pleasure of meeting her through Brian and Tim and all the great works that they're doing in our community. And of course, Nancy Barrows and a lot of other great and amazing people as well. So she's over there in the Florida area, and I'm going to learn a lot about her on this particular day. I've already learned that she is the mother of two, and it definitely is an activist in a number of ways of trying to make sure that women are treated fairly, as well as folks that were even bullied, because I didn't realize that, but I learned a lot about that in reading her bio and everything. So she's definitely been involved in that work as well. right now, we're going to learn a lot more about DJ, or as she likes to be called, the Silver Fox. So how's it going, everything? Glad to have you here with me. You
Thank
are a
you.
truly amazing person, and always glad to see you when I see you on Tim shows and some of the other shows that you've been part of. And I know you do your own things as well. So I'd love to hear more
Yes.
about all these amazing things that you are doing in your life, and definitely glad to welcome you to the International Broadcast Media. One of the things that I always try to explain to my guests that don't know about this platform is that Kim Calhoun and Nick Palvedo kind of came up with this idea, and first they were doing it several years back as just a way to get out about financial literacy and things along that line. But then COVID came, and they realized that they had a lot of contacts in other parts of the world that were learning about this pandemic even before it hit the United States. So they then decided to basically form a internet podcasting network, and they've got like somewhere around 50 or 60 shows that range from a spiritual show in Nigeria to a music show out of South Africa to a entertainment show out of the Colorado area, if I remember correctly, where those two hosts are from, to a number of other great shows. But definitely would love to learn more about what the Silver Fox is doing.
Oh, well, thank you so much. So much, Mark. I really appreciate the invitation to be here, to meet with you. We've spoken in the past, and it's really been just a really effortless conversation, just smooth, and really enjoy your energy. So I appreciate the invitation. I know that we have a lot of mutual interests in the work that we do. We have a lot of commonalities that really brought us together. So here I am, and I appreciate the opportunity.
No,
Yes.
no problem at all. How are you maintaining? I know that earlier today I was worried that you weren't going to show up because the lovely forces of nature decided to try to knock power out and everything, but you do have your power back, and that's always a
Yeah.
great thing and everything along those lines. But how are you doing? How is it coping? I know when I was talking to you, you said you've got two kids, one that's a young kid and one that's a all about to be an adult person because once you get past 19, you're past the teenage years. So he's
Yeah.
already getting into early adulthood. But how are y'all coping with the whole COVID situation, and how are you even doing the various things that you're doing in this era and in this time?
Yeah, it's been, just I guess a transition for all of us, just learning how to get through and navigate what's going on in the world today and all the social influences that are upon us. But the COVID hitting really does change everyone's life, and really almost instantaneously. I remember vividly when we were kind of preparing for that. And as a former military member, I really remember also preparing just in case these types of things happen, right? If there's like, any kind of chemical warfare or biological warfare. So, really, when you hear of a virus like this that's so powerful that can really take lives, the bells go off in your head. You start to kind of remember all those things that you were taught. So, I really knew instantly it would be a really serious thing. And I remember sharing with coworkers before we left the office, like, this is not just going to be a couple months, like we're thinking, like the media is putting out there. It really seems like this is going to be long haul, long term. The way that the numbers are going, the way it's spreading. So it was just to kind of see and be able to recognize before it started. I felt kind of almost prepared in a sense, and I've been able to cope, luckily, very well. I've been able to take advantage of opportunities and the time that I've been given home, working from home, and just trying to kind of figure out the way to get through in the best possible way, safely, and with the best interest of those around me.
Oh yeah,
So
definitely.
yeah.
Tell you had mentioned, and that's one of the things that fascinated me when I saw a little bit of your history. I've actually got cousins that served in the military. One of them is actually doing civilian work, and I believe he's gone back to that Saudi Arabia area and all of that. But he was doing
Mhm.
civilian work after having served and made it up to a certain rank, and then they let him go because one of the things I didn't know about the military was that it gives you a certain amount of chances to advance, and if you don't advance, then they just kind of like send you back off into the civilian world. So I did not
Mhm.
realize that until I was having that conversation with my cousin Emmett, who's, like I said, has had a long time history of being in the military and worked at the Pentagon as well as overseas. But
Wow.
tell a little bit about how you got involved in the military, and a little bit about, it sounds like part of your wanting to get in that was also some of the things that you went through as a teenager and everything. And you're definitely now in your uh,
Yeah.
adult area and everything.
Yeah. Mhm.
Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. So, really, it comes from just my uncles were basically fundamentally my inspiration. I have my father is the youngest of three brothers, and the two older brothers, my uncles, had joined the army. So when I came around and I had graduated high school, I knew I wanted to pursue college. I was very passionate about going to college, pursuing an education. As a Latina, I really wanted to, be successful and break stereotypes, break stigmas, push myself. So, for me, I felt that the military would be the best option to pursue. I felt like it would help take the family name. I'm the oldest, so I told my dad, "Hey, Dad, I'll join the military on our behalf, our name," and I did. I joined the Air Force, and I was in there for 4 years. I did active duty. Very fortunate to just have so much amazing training and just really opened my eyes to culture, to different people, and that the world is really a huge but yet beautiful and colorful place. And there's really so much to embrace. And I just, it was just a really fun time when you're so young and you're exploring yourself, you're exploring the world around you. So it really was just something that's unforgettable, I think. And I really do support military members and their spouses, their families. It's something near and dear to my heart. Although I didn't do a full 20 years and I would have absolutely loved to, for me, I knew that my calling was more in social work, social services, and continuing
Right.
to help people in the community, vulnerable populations. So I got my bachelor's in psychology and I started applying for jobs in social services, social service organizations, nonprofits. And I've been there ever since, just kind of doing the work with all types of different kinds of populations and people.
Yeah, and you've done some great work in that field and everything. I
Thank
definitely want
you.
to explore that a little bit more as well. But I do know that definitely you'll be glad to know that my dad served in the Air Force as well. And then he got out of that because he was somewhat of a rebel and still is very much of a rebel and all of that. So he actually got involved in the civil rights struggle immediately after joining the Air Force. But he was stationed in Turkey. So when I was a young baby, I actually got to move to Turkey. Have no memories of that because, like I said, I was literally an infant. I think mom probably went with me when I was like maybe 3 or 4 months and was there until I was like maybe 2 or 3 when we moved back to the States. But
Wow.
as a baby, I was rolling around in a stroller around the country of Turkey and everything because mom went to meet with dad. And of course, they've been separated, but are still very
Aw.
much involved in my life and all of that. But definitely, I know that you can be an activist and also be involved in the military as well. You just have to find that lane to do both of those kinds of work. So definitely,
Oh,
I know
yes.
that it's quite possible to do that, to be an activist and everything else. I was wondering, a lot of people have been thinking, and I just briefly mentioned it earlier about of course, Black Lives Matter last year and a number of the things that were going on in that category. And now we've had a lot of these attacks, one in Atlanta, and then of course we did have the shooting that was in Colorado as well. But it definitely seems like the one that was in Atlanta was targeted toward our Asian population. So I was just wondering,
Yeah.
as a Latina, if you could talk a little bit about your feelings about where we are in race relations and where we are as a community, because it seems to me that you are an activist in that area there in Florida. So I'd love to hear your
Oh,
thoughts.
I really appreciate that. I really do want to advocate for lots of populations. It's sometimes it can be difficult talking about racial issues, racial sensitivities. How do we have those conversations without saying things that offend others? But I'm Black Lives Matter. I'm very supportive of that movement and supportive of, again, all cultures. And I want I find like that is truly important to me, and just helping voice those voices that deserved the equality, that deserve to be recognized. I was actually watching like Camp, the Netflix And that whole movement where they were really moving alongside the civil rights movement. They were using the power of the civil rights movement to be able to have their voices heard as well, and embracing all that awareness and social activism. So, I absolutely support Black Lives Matter, and I really want to highlight that. Black History Month was last month, and I really wanted to also highlight that. And I think that talking about it and having these conversations, is uncomfortable it may be for some individuals, but it's still important to have, and it's okay to help educate and learn along the way, as long as you're open and as long as you're receptive. I think, that's the best you can do. Just do the best you can to be supportive of those.
No doubt about that. You got to just do the best you can and all of that. One of the other things I was going to ask you is, this month is Women's History Month, and I've definitely been very fortunate to have a lot of women in my life that have been very much activists in the community. My mom, along with my dad, actually started a community radio station in Warrenton, North Carolina, which is rural North Carolina. And then my mom, for a number of years until she retired, was very much involved in the philanthropic community here in this area, giving a lot of grants through the Golden Leaf Foundation, and also doing a lot of work on foundations that she belonged to, like the Rural Center of North Carolina, and a couple of other organizations that she belonged to as well, including one that dealt with media and all of that. But I was just wondering, as a woman leader there in Florida, your thoughts about being celebrated on this particular day, because I do think that we oftentimes don't give enough honor to the women of our lives and the women of society that have done some truly amazing things, whether it was in the military or whether it was in civilian life. I know that Kamala Harris, of course, is our first female vice president, but I would love to hear your thoughts about having women leaders and just your own role as a woman leader.
Oh, I appreciate that's a great question. This is something that I'm really starting to embrace. Let's just start there. It comes from a place of inequality, right? That many of us face. We'll first start with the racial Latina, that I was insecure. I was bullied for being Latina, having a Hispanic last name, in a predominantly white rural area. And with that, really, I started to build my strength and find my way, find my own strength. And then I think as I got older and joining the military, right, it starts to build structure and values. You start to strengthen again, continue to build yourself, and learn more about you. And at least I did. I really have always been one to try to look internal and assess to move forward, to progress for personal growth, professional growth. But as a woman, I feel like that there's always been that barrier. Like, you have to overachieve. And that is just, statistically proven that women are underpaid compared to men, and that women have to do twice the work to prove themselves. So I applaud, and I love to highlight, again, women, as well as individuals with disabilities, mental health issues, LGBTQ community, just there's so many different populations that are normally cut out of society, and they're told, no, you sit the sidelines, you're not good enough. And for me, women have been part of that, right? So women's movement, they had to do their own work as well. So I really enjoy being part of those communities and those movements. Something I do currently is I work with the Mission Continues. I'm taking a women's veterans leadership cohort I'm really proud of, 60 to 70 women of color, predominantly color, Black, beautiful women. And it's just been such an amazing organization that really promotes that social equality. And that we continue to just really work on those value systems to create inclusion for others, for those that are coming behind us, right? I mean, as leaders, we want to be able to extend ourselves and assist those that are next to us, behind us. And if someone in front of us is weakening, we can help them to continue to move them forward.
Yeah, definitely. Tell me a little bit about that experience, because I know that was even part of your bio and everything, about growing up and about some of those experiences that you went through. Because like when I was reading about those descriptions, I'm going and thinking to myself, whenever I've seen you appear on Brian's show or some of the other shows that I've had the pleasure of seeing you pop in on as well, I'm always thinking that this is a very articulate, smart, very attractive young lady, but it sounds to me like you weren't treated that way in your high school years and all of that. So I'm going like these folks that had it apparently very backwards, because you are definitely somebody that I think is a tremendous asset to the community and definitely a warm and wonderful person. So I would love
Thank
to
you.
hear more about your growing up and about dealing with that kind of environment in this predominantly, it sounds like very racist white neighborhood that you were growing up in.
I mean, when you just come from a place where you're different and people make it known that you're different, and they, uh, just point out the differences, and they make it clear that they're not equal to their status, then, it stays with you. It cuts into you. It takes a little piece of your heart. It takes a little piece of you. And that it could be society. It could be an environmental. It could be parental. It could be family members. Just once people invade that space of who you are as you're going through personal development, it really does take a toll. And if it's something that's ongoing, that comes through multiple experiences, you start to believe it, right? You start to think, oh, it must be true. It must be true. So, in that sense, it's just always constantly then working against those insecurities that were imprinted in you from an early age. And that's just, I think that lots of people can relate to that. Not just because I'm Latina or because of this neighbor, but anybody from can maybe associate and resonate with that and just say, oh, well, yeah, like, and everybody gets bullied and everybody gets picked on. I like to think like, even the cool kids and even the popular kids may have had some experiences that they could relate to. But again, the motivation, the encouragement, and the message is always showing compassion and uh, just being more mindful of the person next to you and what they're going through. And if you can just extend yourself in a positive way, that can make all the difference.
No, I definitely agree with you on that. Extending ourselves on a positive way and definitely encouraging people. What are some of the lessons that you try to teach your kids? You definitely, like you said, you've got one that is a young kid, and now you've got the one that's a teenager that's about to move into adult ages and everything of that nature. I've actually don't have any kids of my own, but I do have two nephews. One that'll be 12 in August, the other will be 13 in August. That's right. They were born in the same month and everything, but different parts of the month. But definitely, I was just wondering, because I know in the African American community, a lot of times there's that talk, and I actually would argue that that talk is probably also held in the Latin American community as well, because a lot of times that community also has to face fear from the police, and sometimes those
Mm-hmm.
police officers are also profiling as well. But I was just wondering,
Oh,
what
yeah.
are some of the things that you've been teaching your kids, and some of the lessons you've been trying to pass on to them?
Sure. I mean, my values really stand with again, like compassion, trust in yourself, believing in your being steadfast in who you are. I've really worked with my children, hopefully to give them to be comfortable and secure in who they are and who they want to be, to embrace opportunity, to not be fearful, um, and to be able to express and build themselves to be respectable, to hold their head up high, and to know what they stand for, and to know that if you're in the right and you're doing right, then you don't have to be fearful, that you shouldn't be. But I understand with, systemic racism and the way that the system disempowers people of color and disempowers people from various communities, right? The disabled community, people that have minorities, refugees. I mean, we could go on and on. But unfortunately, it's really finding that community. That's just another important component of it. That's something I talk about on my show with my guests, and we find that common thread, that the support system is one of the most important things, the environmental awareness of what's going on around you, and being able to protect yourself and surround yourself with a good, strong support system really is key and critical to your health, your safety, your security, your mental health, your progress, your development, your growth.
Yeah, that's definitely very important
Commu-
and all of
yeah,
that.
communication.
Tell folks a little bit about the show that you're doing, Silver Fox Talks,
Yeah,
and what that's all about. I know folks are
sure.
here on this platform as well as just those that are watching globally would definitely be interested in learning more
Thank
about
you.
Silver Fox Talks and what that is all about.
Sure. So, absolutely, I have a show that I kind of came up with related to what I do in my mission and purpose in life. Being a voice to break stigmas and empower people with disabilities and empower people of other abilities. And that for me, just watching the stories of, again, despair, or the stories of trauma, the stories of fear, have always stayed close to my heart. And I figured once I got comfortable with the camera and COVID allowed me to grow into that, I was able to embrace what I could do, my gifts, to be able to use that in this format. So I went ahead and I created my show, and it's called Let Your Mayhem Be Known. It's about people's mayhem that we all have, whatever that may be, and just sharing it with the world and showing that you are still a strong person, a whole person, and that judgment is not needed. That to embrace what you have, your gifts. Yesterday, I was fortunate enough to have a stream with Bruce. Um, and we talked about strength based personal growth, and that's something that I really, when I work with individuals and when is focusing on our strengths, and that includes like everything we've talked about, from community building, our networks, finding your resources within, finding identifying and starting with you as
Right.
an individual.
And one of the things you always talk about is that whole concept of mayhem. And I definitely
Mhm.
believe in encouraging mayhem. So, what
Mhm.
does mayhem mean to you? And what do you think folks should be thinking about when they think of mayhem? Because I actually think that that's one of those misaligned
Yeah.
words that folks don't always understand and put it in the right context. But I'm definitely a believer in mayhem and mischief and a number of those other things as well. So, I would love to know your thoughts about what mayhem means and why we should have more mayhem in the world.
Well, I feel that, we all have a lot of mayhem within ourselves internally that we deal with. We have our mayhem, the external mayhem that we have to deal with. So there's so many facets, right? There's so many different areas of mayhem in our lives. And of course, I've already kind of shared where I align mine with the really like the mental aspect and the but I know, like, from so many other perspectives, from like social and cultural perspectives, like that mayhem and everything that you go through, and like the feelings, the behaviors, the social pressures that you have to deal with when you are of a different community, a different color, or from a different country. uh, and in Florida, we have our inner cities, like our bigger cities, right, that have lots of culture and restaurants and music and pockets of people that can really build those communities. And I guess I don't know if I got off track here. I'm
No,
sorry, Mark,
no, you're
but
doing good. You're doing real good.
yeah, but I mean, I think that oh God, just point me back in the right direction for a second,
No,
because
you
we
were
were talking
talking
about
about mayhem. We
community,
were talking about mayhem and
right?
the importance of mayhem.
Right, thank you. Okay, so all of that, right? Like mayhem's everywhere, and I just think like if you can see it and you can embrace it, and then you can find a way to work with it and work with your community, then the the mayhem might be not so overwhelming. It might not be so disempowering. There could be a lot of strength and power found that could be created.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you in that mayhem. I know that Brian definitely creates a lot of mayhem, as do
Yeah.
Tim and Nancy and a lot of other folks. So it can be
Mhm.
done in a variety
Positive.
of
Sure.
ways and a lot of positive ways. So definitely, I
Yeah.
think that that positive mayhem is more of what I'm looking for, and I definitely think
Mhm.
that that's more of
Similar.
what folks are looking for and everything. What
Yeah.
were you always, except for when you were in the military, based there in Florida, or were you actually living in other parts of the country? And like I told you once
Mhm.
before, I always think of Florida as well as North Carolina, where I'm at, as one of those kind of schizophrenic states where you have pockets of liberal areas, like where I'm at
Mhm.
here in Durham, and
Right.
definitely I would argue that Raleigh and maybe Charlotte, some of our more urban areas definitely can
Correct.
be more liberal. And then you've got some very conservative areas as well. And whenever I think of Florida, actually, even though y'all are one state, I think of it being like three states. The middle part, which is kind of where you're based at around
Right.
Orlando, down in the further southern part, and then definitely the north where the military base is totally separate. So I guess if we go out west, we can even make it four separate states and everything. If you go out
Yeah,
by
that's
like the Panhandle.
yeah, that's funny that you say that. Yeah, it is. And I'm sure if you've looked like even at a map, whether it be like a political or what do they call those? Like the voters maps or how
Oh
the
yeah,
voting went. Like you can see the blue, which is more metropolitan urban, and then you can see the red, which is more rural areas of the state. So yeah, I mean it really does depend on where you're at, it's uh but we're still like so full of people and there is very diverse. So I really enjoy obviously the diversity and culture and music and food and people and just learning and really like hearing about people's personal experiences and stories. And I actually have like a really great guest that I'm really excited to highlight. We're going to be hopefully talking about some refugee stuff
Mhm.
and some host country stuff and how that affects you as a like as a person like that's on the
Right.
receiving end and your country is receiving refugees and how the refugees are really responding within the communities and how the communities have to find ways to work together. So that's going to be like a whole conversation that I'm really going to be exploring, that it's not really quite familiar to me in a place of comfort, but I'm really willing to embrace that conversation, open my mind, open my heart, learn, and then be able to share that so we can all learn together. So, I hope I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, it sounds like it's gonna be a great conversation. I'll definitely have to
Yeah.
catch that particular episode and everything. If
Yeah,
somebody
I think
was
that would
to
be
come
really great for
down
you.
and meet you and see you during this time, and once we get past the COVID era and everything, and they were like wanting to take you to a good restaurant or a good form of music, what would be something that they should take the Silver Fox to? What is the Silver
Oh,
Fox going to do most when they go out and enjoy the regular getting out of life? Once we get past COVID, are you like the person that's going to be going doing the Latin music thing? Or are you going to be watching jazz? Are you going to be watching blues? Or you got certain restaurants that you're more of a bigger fan of?
well, first of all, I'm in Florida, so Florida has been a little bit more open about their what do you call it? Their the ability to go into restaurants and order
Yeah,
food or
they're
in and out. The
kind of their
bars are
COVID
still open.
protocol.
The protocol, right? So bars have been kind of open for most of the last couple months. I mean, I want to say a good 6, 7, 8 months. Bars have been open since last year, all through. So, I mean, I've been fortunate enough to be able to eat and stuff and go out, but I'm definitely also a nature lover. Like, you, most likely when it's downtime, really is in nature. It's going to the beach. It might be just hiding in a nature trail, something like that. But I love to get out. I love to dance. I love Spanish music, of course. That's really another way for me to kind of decompress, right,
Right.
from the grind that we do every day, the work that we do, the topics that we have to talk about, the stories that we listen to, and then when we're sharing our energy back with our guests and trying to share our energy with our audience, then
Right.
it's nice to have those balance of things. So we can have a high energy activity like go out dancing and drinking, and but I also like those like nice peaceful quiet days where it's like picnic at the park. Well, not the park, but more like a state park and a
Right.
nature trail. So,
Oh yeah, nature trails are great. We've got a great one here, the Eno River, which is actually one of our state parks, and people
hmm
go walk in that, or they actually go
hmm
down the trail and everything. So that's definitely a great and relaxing thing. It seems to me that you've got an advantage being there near the ocean and everything. So is that something that you feel that people are able to take more advantage of if they're like in that mental space where they need that kind of help? Because I know that there are folks that are going through all kinds of mental situations, whether that's being homeless, whether that's going through other kinds of turmoil. Maybe they were bullied as well. But it seems to me, and this could be a misreflection on my part, that there are more places to actually kind of decompress there in Florida, but that could also create even more additional problems because while there may be those additional places, that could also create problems because there's so many places to decompress. But I'm just wondering your thoughts on that because it seems to me, I know that I would love to go to an ocean and have an ocean view, but being a non-driver and the ocean being a long, long, long walk away, that's going to be kind of hard to do.
Right, right. And I know, so that kind of, wow, I feel like there's like two things I would even want to talk about in that like in that question. So
Yes.
your first question really is, when I hear that, I hear the transportation, right? Like the
Right.
barrier of, I really would love to be able to do this, but I can't. And I'm, I'm stuck, right? I don't drive. And that's
Right.
something that I work with, individuals that really share that with me. So I understand that. But then it's being, I want to encourage finding something that you can do, and how do we have those experiences that we still seek, right, to
Right.
fulfill that. So and the beach is long far away for you, and like anybody more inland, right, in the continental United
Right.
States that's inland, then you can understand, like, okay, well, I don't have a beach either. They have mountains or they have lakes. Florida, you don't swim in a lake.
Right.
Right? But maybe in some other nice states, you can go lake swimming and do what you want, or just be able to maybe find someone to keep you company,
Right.
and be able to assist you to have that experience. And again, that really starts back to take me to your support systems and how you build those networks of support system to be able to make your life more, have a better quality of life. It's really going back, fundamentally, is how do you assist someone to find like their quality of life, when it, and again, it depends on the state you're in, but I think in that sense, that's what we're talking about. How do we improve our quality of life that we're in right now? That's what I
Exactly.
heard.
And how do we do that? Because I think the support
Yeah.
system is something a lot of people don't think about, the support system and how important that is, both with
Uh,
your existing support system, like if you're fortunate enough to have your family still with you, or if you're fortunate enough to have like your best friends or your spouses or whatever may be the case. But sometimes people don't always have those, and I know that that's
right,
sometimes where our homeless people fall through
right.
the crack, because they may not have those, or they may have disconnected from those people. So, as one that is doing
Hmm.
work in that field, what are some of the
Okay.
ways that you try to help people build these support systems?
Right. And so I guess, so in my line of work, it's absolutely fundamental to have resources in place to be able to provide. You have to be able to have a running list, I think, of resources, community resources, people of contact, right? Points of contact that you can say, this is a housing coordinator. This is someone that can help you with an application for Section 8 or HUD. Just having that information available, I think. But when it comes to an individual that's isolated, which that's something that I think you referenced, is someone that's isolated, they don't have that. Sometimes all they have is a phone. Sometimes all they have is a minute phone, I guess, as they call it, right?
Right.
Sometimes they don't have internet. They don't have laptops. That's something I run into constantly. I don't have a laptop. I just have my phone. Okay, no problem. So, it's just really finding a way to make it accessible to them, and not patronizing, I think. And again, goes back to those values of compassion. So if you see your neighbor outside, and their story is just extending yourself to how's their quality of life, the same thing that you would want in return.
Yeah, that makes a lot
That's
of sense, and we need to do
Yeah.
more of that and everything. At what point do you think that you realize that this is the life calling of yours? Because, like I said, I know that sometimes people don't know their life calling, or they change their life calling. I know I had
Yeah.
Greg Fishel on one of my shows, because at one point I thought I was going to be, and he's a local weatherman. I thought I was going to be a weatherman, and then I was like, nope, that means science. And I wasn't thinking of the difference between physical science and earth science, because to me, science meant blood, and blood meant something that I didn't necessarily want to see. So it kind of ruled that out and everything, even though later in life I realized that, that's more of a science field, that you don't necessarily have to have all those many biology courses and things of that nature. But at the time of being a youngster, I wasn't thinking that. I was just thinking science equals blood, blood equals not Mark.
Right, right. Well, I mean, that can go back to the educational system, right? Or a lack of information, lack of knowledge.
Right.
The information that you weren't provided, you weren't given, opportunities that you weren't aware of. And that's a huge part of it. I think education really needs to be able to share information in a better way. I think that information should be more accessible to not only, and this is a fight that I personally fight in, is individuals with disabilities, like, right, with hard of hearing community, deaf and hard of hearing, or visually impaired community. So advocating for them. But then when you turn it more towards like social or racial topics and related issues, then it's still using those same values and using those same like tactics. I think it's just to still provide like accessibility and information to those that need it.
Yeah, that makes a
Just
lot of
being.
sense. What are your thoughts when people use terms like, because I've heard different people, and I've actually had some guests that have talked about it, and I know that you are definitely one that is a navigator in that field and
Mhm.
definitely a mental health mentor as well. But what is the more practice term that you prefer using? Is it disability? Is it folks with disadvantages, or what terms do you prefer when people are talking about folks, whether that's something that might be in the mental field like ADHD, or whether that's
Mhm.
something that might be a more physical one like being crippled, or I don't even want to say crippled because that's a bad word, but being
Right.
like having a not able to move your arms or have your arm mobility or things
Mhm.
along that line. So what are some of the terms that you would prefer society use when thinking
Right.
about people that have these kinds of disadvantages? And I can
Well,
actually say that I honestly have one of those as well, because I've got something called dysgraphia, which is like a form of dyslexia. It means that, if we're driving down the street, or I'm attempting to drive down the street, and you say, Mark, turn left, and it might take me a minute to realize which way is left. I mean, it's a split second quicker differentiation than, say, the average person, but that quick second could also cause problems if I don't make the correct adjustment. So there are ways that you can
mhm.
get around any disability, including that one, but that's kind of one of the ways of a more simple explanation of what I give for dysgraphia. But definitely it's something that I've talked about,
No, that's
on this platform.
fantastic. No,
Mhm.
I love that you share that, and I really appreciate you sharing that. And it's really makes a great point for sharing your experience. Something that I want to go back to is almost that you answered the question. You really were able to say, well, how do I address people with? And that's it. You address them as people, right? They're individuals. And if you want to know how to assist them, hey, how can I assist you? How can I better serve you? Can I help you? It's just not assuming, and it's not just kind of talking at them. That's another thing that I always would encourage is, just your language. Talk to them like a person. Even if it's someone that has like cerebral palsy, someone that may be not verbal. Just because
Right.
that they're not verbal doesn't mean that they don't understand you. They might be able to have a communication that's special to them, that's specialized, that they know. And it just takes, again, a little compassion and just being a little attentive and patience. I every time I've been saying this, and I'm going to give a shout out to Daniel Hall, which one of my guests
Hmm.
that has always made this special imprint in my mind, where it goes to, you got to listen with more than just your ears. I
Right.
mean, he said it best in his story, and something that he was taught, right, by his wife in their story. So to me, that just says it all. Like, we need to learn to listen, but more with just our ears. We can use our eyes, we can use our emotions, if people can become in tune with emotions and their senses, and just being maybe just a little bit more patient,
Right.
and less distracted, and giving the individuals opportunity to express themselves. Time, you can ask me a question, I'll give you an answer in 30 seconds, but for someone else it's going to take longer for them to formulate their answer.
Right.
And that's okay. That's so okay.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be. It's just like people think that there's these standards of communication, and these are the only ways to communicate. And I think if people would just maybe show compassion, I
Yeah,
sometimes
compassion is
lose.
very important. Do you think that do you think, and I don't know your own history with disability and everything, but do you think that it's important to have a disability in order to have a better role as an advocate in the disability community, or do you think that the average Joe that is like, well, doesn't have any disabilities can also be an advocate, or like I said, because I'm not even sure of your
Yeah.
own status of being disabled or not disabled, but do you think that it's important to have those kind of like experiences? I know that in your sense you were definitely bullied, and so that can definitely be considered a disadvantage as well. But how important do you think it is to have kind of the experiences yourself in order to be a true advocate?
You know, I can't speak for everybody. So some people don't need to walk the walk. Some people don't need to walk the walk. Some people have walked the walk and they want to share that and they want to advocate. So I don't ever want to say that you can't advocate if you want to be, if you're an that's your calling. I think it just matters if that's your calling.
Right.
I don't know. I think that if you know what your values are and what really speaks to you and then it shouldn't really matter, those things, I think. I want to go back to the previous question. And one thing I want to make a point is I don't personally talk about diagnoses. I'm not a clinician. So I don't reference to diagnoses so much. It's not something that I really feel is something that should be. And I don't encourage people, when we talk about this, it's not really just to kind of speak to a specific diagnosis. I really prefer not to, because then it starts to build judgmental types of the stereotypes and the stigmas, right? And that's what we're trying to get away from. So when we speak, we try to speak in more like a more inclusive. And I just would like to make a quick reference that you said the word schizophrenia and something that you were describing, and that would be a good example, is just using like a word of a diagnosis to express something that you could use a different word instead of the diagnosis. So that kind of goes along those lines, is like the language that we use and how we use it, and how it either can create certain I don't want to lose my train of thought, but how it can just kind of perpetuate certain stigmas or stereotypes. Another word is the word crazy. I don't really prefer that word. I don't use that word. And when people use that word, it's something I'm like, there's so many other words out there to use in the English language, more descriptive words, instead of using the word crazy. And just because that is like that catch-all word, when people don't have a word, they use that word. For me, it's the word awesome. If you hear me saying, "Oh, that's awesome," it's because I can't think of another word.
It's awesome, and awesome is a great word. But the other thing, it kind of brings up what you just brought up. But the other thing is that sometimes it becomes such a catch-all kind of phrase that it becomes a catch-all phrase because how can I put it? Sometimes we don't know how to describe it. We're not feeling good about it. And because we're not feeling good about it, we're trying to find something to put it in some kind of context. Because I'm even thinking about like how often, and this isn't just actually us guy folks are notorious for doing it, but I've also heard women do it as well, which is kind of like as soon as a relationship might go south, then automatically the partner of whatever sort has gone a little bit on the crazy side, or at least that's the way that we try to address them and everything. And that's just wrong, because just because the relationship went south doesn't mean that it was crazy, and doesn't mean that they were crazy, but because of what went on, it's one of those stigma words that we try to lump in. And it's like, something we could have been wrong in whatever was going on in the relationship, so therefore they must be. It's used
to trigger people. It's used to trigger them, to make them think, oh, well, maybe they have this, maybe they have that, right? Again, and just perpetuates all those stigmas and stereotypes that are already like floating out there, that we're all kind of trying to say, if we start working on our language and finding ways to. So another example is you guys, right? So this is something on my live stream I've been working very hard. Episode 1, you guys. By episode 10, finally, yay me, I got to episode 10. I've really been working on cutting out that word and just saying everyone, individuals, right? I'm not trying to make it gender, going back to including all communities. How can I make my language more inclusive in all aspects, right? I know that I advocate for this or that subject, topic, or issue, but when I speak, I really want to honestly be inclusive and intersectional of everyone, right? So gender, orientation, race, culture, language. I don't want that for anyone to have that barrier with me personally. I want them to say, she's so open. It doesn't matter if I don't have this or if I don't have that, or if I speak like this. And for me, that is really important. And that's what I like to encourage. And a lot of the mission is to help and educate, right? That's what we do. That's part of the work we do in this, so just changing our language is always just helpful. as
And
we all move forward to develop so make our social impact. To make social impacts, we can start with language. That's quick, easy, simple, and learning the words that you use that, and being able to catch yourself and correct yourself, as I have done in my own live stream.
oh yeah, and we all have to catch ourselves. I've even caught myself here on this show. Apparently, I didn't get
Yeah,
myself with
yeah.
schizophrenia, but I will try to do better with that the
Oh,
next time and everything. I'm just teasing you back at everything. But one of the things I was getting to say is that one of the things that this network tries itself on is definitely the role of education and the role of education. One of our founders, I can't remember if it was Kim or Nick, but one of them had said that they thought that we are using 18th century values in the 21st century, meaning that we're still stuck on 18th century, even though we're in the 21st century. But we're not teaching enough of things about values. I mean, as I was talking to a friend of mine, I don't know the last time that they even offered civics courses in school so that you knew what the Constitution was about and what amendment was what and all of that. But I just wanted your thoughts about the role of education and how we can do better, even in terms of teaching about mental health and about health in general in the education system. Then I'm going to share a story with you after you answer about you guys, because I had a case of when I was in college back in the 80s where I would have been a even poorer man than I am now if they had actually collected. And I will share that word that is a Southern word and how I almost
right.
lost a bet. But I will share that after you answer the question.
Oh, okay. Now we got to go back to the question, because now I forgot the question, because now I want to know the story. Okay. No, for real. Repeat the question.
The question was about education and the role of education, particularly in terms of teaching about health and particularly our mental health.
Okay, right. So our educational system is taught out of textbooks that are written, and there lacks, I believe, a whole person perspective.
Right.
I think that our system really lacks in educating individuals on the multifacets that a human is.
Right.
So history, science, math, reading, all, yes, very important. But so is, values, like you said, right? How we give to society, right? How we contribute, how we behave, just all those other skills that comprehension, not just English comprehension, reading comprehension, but processing of problems, problem solving. How about a problem solving class? Hey, even such simple things as like personal, like home economics, right? They used to have that cursive English, right? So they cut out home economics. They try to take out music. They try to cut out art, all those things that are just facets of humans,
right.
That really are just allow you to embrace who you are. So yeah, like the more the educational system cuts out those pieces, then the more difficult it is for an individual to grow, I think, and develop into a whole person. And then the more that chips away at society, the more society's chipping away from their angles, right, for their greed or corruption or whatever that may be, pushing their agenda.
Right.
Trying to figure out my words here before I say them. Motivating their agenda, but you lose the person, right? The person's the last one on the totem pole, so like quote unquote, right? So you have like government making decisions, but it's like the people on the bottom that are like really going through it. The individuals on the bottom, those are the individuals that I've always worked with. Is the individuals, the community, the ones that are in most need and in need of support and strength from their government that should be assisting them, even veterans, like who have committed and served time to their country to give their lives, risk their lives, come back. In these states of pain, and then to just not provide support to them. I mean, that's one of the greatest, I think, another fault, right? That the government continues to, not focus on the people. And that is, I think, one of the most greatest examples right there, that another great example of like what we see in society is how we see veterans that are homeless, veterans that have these mental health issues and can't get the help they need, and they are in pain, that they are suffering alone, and they are, losing their lives, taking their own lives.
Right.
But why is that happening? Right. Lack of resources, lack of education, lack of information that starts from the top. The one that's, yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that and everything. Actually, one of the shows, and I'm going to share the story about y'all with you in a little bit, but that's actually one of the things that I was involved in up until right before COVID. We did not do it at all in 2020, and I think the last one might have been in 2019, but a good friend of mine, Captain Newborn, and that is actually his, as I recall, his first name, and he never served in the military, but he definitely is a veteran advocate and runs a group called Next Level Veterans and all of that. But he had an agreement with the Apollo, the actual Apollo in New York, that we would run these talent competitions down here in the South. And I think we had agreements with other states as well, but definitely here in North Carolina. And we took winners up there, and then those winners would then get a chance to perform on the legendary stage. But I know every show that we did, I was the host of it, but he was the kind of the creator, and would also come out several times during the show, including at the end to pick the winners and everything. But he would always in the middle give the statistics about veterans and what you veterans have been going through in the sense of the amount of folks that are committing suicide and doing other things out of that veteran community. Because like I said, he is a strong veteran advocate. I know that you are as well. So after I tell you the story of y'all, I would love to hear your thoughts about our veterans and where we are with veterans' rights. But I'll give you the story of y'all. When I first went to college at Marquette, I was always using certain catchphrases because I am from the South, even though I'm an African American with some Native American mixed in, and definitely some white somewhere in there or another, but definitely identify primarily as African American. But I would definitely be considered in some ways a Southern person as well, and a Southern good old boy in the sense of my words and everything. So I used y'all, and I had several roommates that were from the Northeast or from the Midwest, because I went to school at Marquette, which is a Midwest town. And so they basically said, it wasn't a lot. They were basically like, you keep saying y'all, you say it just about 500-600 times a day and everything. I'll bet you that you can't stop saying y'all. And I will bet you a quarter that you can't say y'all. So every time that you say y'all, you owe me a quarter. And it might have been a little bit more. It might have even been, I know it wasn't $1. I think it was a quarter. It might have been 50 cents. But it was like at the point of me, having that pressure placed on you, first off, because they're daring you not to use a word that you love using. So having that word and that pressure placed on you, my guess is that by the time they called off the bet, because I remember they came up to me and they were basically like, hey, Mark, you probably already owe us like about $75 to $100. So by the time they placed off the bet, they realized that I was not going to stop using the word, and that I would probably be a very broke person. So they just called off the bet. But that was my word of y'all. So it's kind of like you guys. I was definitely stuck on y'all.
Better than you guys for sure.
Yes.
Working with like in the past, when you work with individuals and they address you in like ways that you just prefer, say, hey, just address me like this or address me like that, and you have but sometimes it's just like the habit behind it, right? It's just the habit, and then I think that's where it really takes more work. And that's hard for people. It's hard for people to want to catch themselves and then correct themselves. So really, it goes back to their character and their nature and their values and all the stuff that we.
Oh yeah, it definitely goes back to that. Like I said, I just remember, and this was like being about the age of your son now. I just remember this 19, 20-year-old person going like, oh, trats, I just used the word again. I guess I'm up to like $5, or I just used it again. I guess I'm up to $10. Like I said, at some point they were like, we give up.
Yeah.
That's your word. You're going to use it. And ironically, I don't use it as much because of being in the media. It may slip in every once in a while, but it's not. Right. There's other catchphrases because my co-hosts here have caught certain catchphrases, and I know that Tim and Brian have their catchphrases. So there are other catchphrases that are probably just as much used as y'all used to be, but it's not that word as much anymore. But definitely we all have our catchphrases. I'm sure you have certain catchphrases as well. But definitely, I was wondering about your thoughts about the veterans. Because, like I said, Captain Newborn has talked to me about that several times. He's very passionate about the rights of veterans, and it sounds like you are as well. So I'd love to hear your thoughts about where we are with veterans' rights and where you would like us to be with veterans'
Wow.
rights.
Well, first, I guess I would just start by saying I'm not really like, I don't come from a political background. I'm not from a political, I don't watch politics. So it's really hard for me maybe to speak on that, but I do see the suffering, I see the pain, I see the damage, I see where there needs to be more services, where there needs to be more discussions, where there needs to be more awareness, where there needs to be more openness, and there needs to be more space for that.
Right.
I think with everything that happened in Iraq and Afghanistan, and for so many years and so many soldiers, just ongoing, the state of the last 4 years, and what's been going on just internationally, on an international scale, really. It just puts Americans, our American soldiers, in harm's way and at risk, and in a much more greater capacity than I think ever before. And well, I just think that things need to change, and there needs to be more representation of that as well.
Right.
And even like veteran minorities, like going that deep into those pockets, right? And really like reaching out and finding and offering those intersections that really are at a place of just greater need, I think,
Right.
and deserve to be, and they're not represented nearly, right? I mean, even Tuskegee Airmen and how that just has always been and continues to be such a relatable and like brings awareness to that. So I don't know.
Right.
There's a lot of work to be done.
There's a whole lot of work to be done.
done.
A whole lot of work to be done in society. That's what we need. Good people like you in there. I was talking to a good friend of mine, Tammy, who's here and originally moved from one of the West Coast towns. I want to say it was like maybe the Portland area, but she's of Asian American descent, a young lady in her 20s, if I remember correctly, late 20s and everything. But we were talking about like the nature of the Asian population. And one of the things we talked about, I would also argue with the Latin American population. I would just love to know your thoughts on this, because I sometimes think that we are too quick to lump everybody in together. And the Latin American population, just like the Asian American population, isn't monolithic. There are folks that are of Puerto Rican descent. There are folks that are of Colombian descent. There are folks that are of Brazilian descent, just like in the Asian culture. There are folks that are Vietnamese, Filipino, and a number of other Asian cultures. So as a Latina, what is some of your thoughts about that, in the sense that sometimes we as a society, we automatically, want to find that one, well, those couple of Latin stars, definitely reach to them to address all Latin issues, and also kind of like not address the diversity aspect of Latin America. So because Latin America also includes Central America, which means there's many countries that are part of the Latin America diaspora. But I was just wondering your thoughts about that.
Oh man, Mark, you're asking some questions, hard-hitting questions.
I'm going to get to some light stuff too.
Oh man, I'm like, when's this gonna end? Okay, my friend. So, cultural perspective, thoughts on the diversity, the need for addressing the diversity within. Yeah, right. So, God, like, there's so many like breakdowns, I guess you could go into, and it really is, and that's a lot for people to handle. Like, that's a lot from the outside for people to just to even embrace. Right, that's a hard concept. Like, what? All Spanish people are like this, right? Like, well, no, not all Spanish people are like that. Like, there's so many different kinds of Spanish people. But yeah, that's a good one. God, you're making me think. You're making me think hard. It takes a lot of awareness. You have to be like culturally aware. Like you need to really be able to start. If you really want to learn, you gotta want to learn. You gotta want to learn. You gotta want to open up. You gotta want to eat the different foods. You gotta want to have the different music, and you want to kind of want to watch the different movies, and you kind of want to do some of like the research and like
Right.
really consume it, and educate yourself. Because to say that there's not information somewhat out there, there is, but again we go back to like lack of resources. So again, I
Mhm.
know that it might be very difficult for someone to really get the information they need to open their eyes and open their heart and to understand like the levels of diversity.
Oh yeah.
So I guess that really goes back to him. I would want to say like a certain level of awareness that you have for fellow humans and your brothers and sisters on this earth that you walk alongside.
No, definitely I agree with you on that. We definitely need to have that awareness. I remember that a friend of mine actually created a telenovela that dealt with a issue, which was actually um, that kind of like bad lending that goes on, particularly in the Latin American community, but also in other communities as well. So my friend Dilcy, who is now married, I want to say she's in her 40s as well, and maybe has two kids now, but she did a soap opera or a telenovela called Nostro Barrio. But it was definitely about that whole
Oh.
predatory lending. It's still out there. It's still available for people to watch on a different other platforms. But it was dealing with that whole thing of predatory lending, but done as a soap
Mhm,
opera. So
mhm.
sometimes we have to use other kinds of means even to get the stories out. So not always
Right.
doing the straight news, but you can also do it in the
That's
form of
great.
a telenovela or different other kind of forms.
I love that. That's like a really great idea. Right. So like creativity, using our
Mhm.
creativity goes back to like me and my show. How can I get this word out and do something creative to so yeah, that's like a really good point you make with like encouraging that in others. Hmm.
Oh yeah, definitely have to do that. And speaking of encouraging that in others, I said we would get to some lighthearted stuff and
Yeah.
everything. I've always seen your um backdrop behind you, which is kind of like got these words of encouragement, these
Hmm.
words that are like your words of the day. I see things
Hmm.
like you are worthy, a number of other things that are there. So I would love for you to share a little bit about how this came about and what those. Oh, you don't have to go through the whole thing because that could take
Yeah.
like a whole 5 hours.
No.
But definitely I would love for you to share a little bit about the content of this backdrop of yours, and definitely a lot of those words I find very much true to you because there's no doubt that you are worthy. There's no doubt that you are
Thank you.
unique in a very positive and wonderful way, and all of that. So glad to consider you, along with
Thank you.
many others, to be some of my new friends and new people. And I look forward, hopefully, we can get past this COVID era so I can actually go down to Florida and maybe you can get a little dance group on with you and everything. But definitely, I would love for you to share a little bit about the importance of those words.
Sure. So when you're finding and you're exploring and you're looking to find your voice, it's intimidating and it's scary and it's overwhelming. My story comes from a place of insecurity, a place of abandonment, a place of void that I've always sought to fill. I filled that with achievements, filling it with success, filling it with, you know, those kinds of things, right? I want to join the military and I want to get a degree and I want to be successful and I want to accomplish this, right? So, in that sense, with those internal negative voices always um, being there, you find ways to strengthen yourself. And for me, this is part of the environment, right? Like what I talked about a little bit earlier about what can I do to change my environment. So I put these words up. I can look at this. I see it. I read it. You see it. You read it. You process it. And for me, going back to all the work I've done, for me, I found, of course, a whole person perspective, a humanistic perspective. But when working with someone, clienting, when you're coaching them, when you're assisting them to get through these like phases or these parts or these barriers, these, you know, parts in their life, you know, finding that their strengths, finding those words that are going to change the narrative. That's something we really didn't touch on, but it's something that's very common in these conversations is changing that narrative. You have to start with the narrative in your own head. Um, and then you want to be able to change the narrative for others and help others change the narrative and just grow to have a more abundant and grateful community that, you know, really focuses on empowerment and showing compassion and understanding. But our society here doesn't really, you know, value itself on those values. And so us as individuals, we can come together collectively and share those values together and shine light. So that's what those words are. They're to empower me and they're to empower others. And it really represents my approach for my process to personal growth, development, as well as success. And what I like to use when I, you know,
And
communicate
which
my
words of those
communication.
words do you think resonates most with you? Like I said, I'm seeing a couple of those words that when I think of you, they definitely fit in my personality and my thoughts of you. Like I said, definitely I saw, I think radiant up there. I definitely saw worthy, and I saw a couple other words,
Mhm.
unique, which I think is a wonderful word and definitely fits you and everything. But what are some of the words that when you look at them, they are the words that resonate with you? I can tell you what words resonate with me about you, but I want to know what words resonate with you.
Oh, you know, I haven't been asked that question. I mean, I think I've been asked, like, what's your word for the year, right? The word for the year. I know that word. But as far as like these empowering words, it's probably worthy, finding my self worth and helping others find their self worth. Oh, hold on, I got a little bit.
That's cool. The
So
visitors come.
yeah, my little guys around here, but yeah, worthy and just finding self worth in yourself and others.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Sorry about that.
No, no
My
problem.
apologies.
You got to take care of the kids, and I definitely understand that. I'll give you
Oh
maybe
yeah.
another few minutes, and I'll let you
Oh,
deal with the
oh,
kids and
thanks.
everything. So I was enjoying the conversation, but you got to do mommy duty in a little bit. I can definitely wrap up your segment and everything, and then do my little mystery guess. I was actually going to have you have part of the fun with that, and I may still run some of those clues and everything. So I was going
Oh,
to
I don't
let you
want to
have
miss out
part
on
of that
that.
fun and all, but definitely I could definitely see worthy being a great word for you. What do you consider just some of your success stories, some of the success stories you've had in your own
Mhm.
personal work that you like to talk about? Because I know we've all had success stories. So, what are some of your success stories?
Some of my personal success stories. Just
Right,
I like to take it back to just the personal growth.
right.
Being able to get to this point in my life and being able to establish my support systems and, you know, helping others establish theirs. The same goes for being able to identify my values, whether and my strengths and my weaknesses, and helping others establish theirs. I'm a person that likes to be foundational. Uh, you know, just work with building foundations and building up um, a strong uh, system. I think that, you know, there's a lot that takes to be accounted for when you want to build something that is worthy.
Yeah.
So it takes a lot of thought and it takes a lot of research and it takes a lot of investment of time and resources. And you can't expect anything. Of course, all that is without getting anything back. It's got to just come straight from the heart. It's got to come straight from like a place of intent and purpose for a greater good. That's something I always share is like what I do is just for the greater good. I've been moved and called to do this, so I'll just do it until, you know, it's time for whatever the next opportunity is for me to continue this mission, this
And
work.
you're doing a great job with your mission and everything. Where would you think you would like to be in either your career or in your life, say 5 to 10 years from now, other than hopefully having that oldest one off to college and maybe the younger one getting prepared for college, but other than maybe them even graduating from college by 5 years from now, or maybe the military is where they're thinking about going. But where do you think you would like to be personally, either or professionally, say 5 years from now, as opposed to where you are now?
It's a good question. I, with my, the things that trigger me, right? The things that worry me. I try not to worry too much about the future. I've always been a planner. I've always wanted to always look into the future and figure out and plan and schedule and have like these goals, and that's important to have long-term goals. So I'm not saying I don't have them, because I do. I have long-term goals, and I think maybe that's more so, what you want to peak at. And from a successful independent woman, I would like to have a business that is my own, with my own name. I don't come from a business aspect. I don't have the business, what is it, a BA, MBA? That's not,
Yeah.
My level of expertise. So I think with me building the experience that I have and making my own foundation for myself, that's something that I would want to build upon, is, some sort of like company in some sort of fashion. Of course, it's always for, to assist individuals, businesses. I've got some ideas of what I want to do, nothing that I really have committed to, nothing that I really in my heart am set on, because I'm still very passionate about my show. It's so new, and I'm right where I'm supposed to be. Lots of wonderful friends really continue to say, you're right where you're supposed to be. You're doing right what you're supposed to be doing. So, don't worry too much. And I really do take that to heart. I really do appreciate those individuals, those support systems I've put around me. But yeah, eventually, like, I would like some of my own business where I can be an entrepreneur, like a full-blown entrepreneur, if granted that from the universe.
Oh, I think it's already coming. It's coming your way. You've already claimed it. I'm helping you claim it and everything.
Thank
So
you.
it is definitely coming and everything. I have no doubt about that. To share you a story about how that can go about, and you don't necessarily have to have that background. You heard me earlier mention my parents started a radio station. My mom's degree at college was in guidance counseling, and like I said, Dad was in engineering, but not radio engineering. I think it was more like that military type engineering, and I guess that would be like civics or civil engineering, but definitely not radio engineering. And they realized in the mid 70s or the late 70s that they were in the middle of this whole love of jazz and a love of news and wanting to get a voice heard by our community that was not out there. They were not hearing the jazz that they loved, heard as much and everything. So with no radio background whatsoever, they started a radio station with some other community friends of theirs in the very small rural town of Warrenton, North Carolina. And that station lasted for about 10 to about somewhere between 10 to 15 years. I know it came on like around the Independence Day, around 76 or 77, and it was on till like the late 80s. So yeah, I'd say it was somewhere between 10 to 12 years. But like I said, they had no experience. Dad has now gone on to become a fairly well-known local and statewide, if not regional, artist. And Mom, like I said, retired out of the world of philanthropy. So they use that as kind of jump-off points for careers that they are still involved in, because Mom is the only one that's retired, and even she's kind of like helping my the raising with my brother of the nephews, because they'll stop by her house, even though they're two different cities and everything. And definitely, I'm sure that Malik gets parenting advice and other things from Mom as well as from Dad, and they definitely spend time with their grandkids. But definitely, you don't have to have the background in order to do the work, is what I'm trying to say. You can definitely get it from other sources as well. And that's kind of like my personal story of how they started that radio station. And it was a truly amazing radio station. It's actually had, I think, Wikipedia entries written about it, as well as other things that have been done. I think they've even been talking about at some point doing some sort of movie or documentary about that experience at some point. So I'll see if that transpires or not. But definitely, I know that that's one of their thoughts. I just wanted to share with you that it is possible to go ahead and get these accomplishments of yours done. And anything that I can do to help, just consider me definitely a supporter of yours. And I definitely will do anything I can to help you as you launch off and do these various wonderful things in our community. I've got your back and everything. And I'm going to put on a little bit of the clues of at least one of my guests. And you can guess, because what the people are supposed to be doing is guessing as they're watching. And you can see if you can guess who that person is. And then I'll bring up a picture of them as I recite stuff. But while I'm doing that, I'm sure that our folks, because when Brian and Tim have popped in, they've seen the snap filters and they know about the snap filters. So I'm sure that some folks would love to see you as the actual fox and everything. So while I'm getting ready to pull out some of these clues, and by the way, I've been running the information that you sent me about your show on Monday, as well as your website and everything else. So folks have been definitely seeing the full name as well as your title and all of that. So hopefully folks will be reaching out to you and knowing about the Let the Mayhem Be Known show. And one of the things that I was going to also tell you is that, and I've offered this to Brian and Tim, but I've also got the permissions from others as well. But if you're at any point interested in bringing any of your programming over to the International Broadcast Media, I am part of their board and I am able to make that happen. So if you're interested in coming into our platform, I'm sure we would love to have that happen as well. So I just wanted to offer that to you because Nick and them told me that I can definitely reach out to folks and try to encourage them to get their shows on our platform as well. So I've already done that. Cool. And now I'm going to put out, I'm trying to decide if I want to do them as banners I'll just do them the old fashioned way, but that's that way. So she thought she might want to become a professional tennis player. However, after practicing all day, every day for a month, she realized a life of playing tennis wasn't for her. So she was thinking about being a tennis player, but she went into something totally different other than tennis. And her father, Dale, was a political science professor, and her mother volunteered as a counselor at a prison for women. So this is somebody that is known in the world possibly of science and everything. She first earned her bachelor's degree in physics and English. Then she earned a master's and a PhD in physics doing research in astrophysics. So she served as a capsule communicator on the ground control team for the second and third space shuttle flights. And she's also worked on the development of the space shuttle's robotics arm that is used to deploy satellites. And she also wrote a number of science books for children, including Mission Planet Earth and Exploring Our Solar System. So that's some of the things that this person did and everything. She was also the only person to serve on both committees that investigated the space shuttle accidents of the Challenger and the Columbia. And there are 2 elementary schools named after her and all of that. So like I said, that's some of the factual things. So if folks are watching, this is the time for them to try to tell us who they think this person is. And this is somebody that I think you will love. In 2011, she started her own company to create educational programs and products to help inspire girls and young women to pursue their interests in science and math. And for her contributions in the field of science and space exploration, she received many honors, including the NASA Spaceflight Medal and the NCAA's Theodore Roosevelt Award. So she definitely is known in that world of space science and all of that. And then we're going to see if we can get some quotes from her, because I try to bring quotes as well so that folks are watching, they can get the quotes. And then in a little bit, I'll ask DJ if she's got any idea who it might be, and maybe the Silver Fox knows. The stars don't look bigger, but they do look brighter. And she said, I would like to be remembered as someone who was not afraid to do what she wanted to do, and as someone who took a risk along the way in order to achieve their goals. So definitely some very powerful advice that she was giving you, lady folks, and all of that. She also said, just people in general, the best advice I can give anybody is to try to understand who you are and what you want to do, and don't be afraid to go down that road and do whatever it takes and work as hard as you have to work to achieve that. So she was giving some great advice and all of that. And of course, like I said, she was a supporter of women in the field of science. So she also said, if we want scientists and engineers in the future, we should be cultivating the girls as much as the boys. So she was saying we need to cultivate the girls as much as the boys. And she said, 3 secrets to success: be willing to learn new things, be able to assimilate new information quickly, and be able to get along with and work with other people. And she also said, all adventures, especially into new territory, are scary. And by the way, I think personally that DJ could have said that. I think the Silver Fox could have said that, because it sounds very much like something that she would say as well. So it sounds like something that the Silver Fox would say, but it is not our one of our three mystery guests and all of that. So I'm going to see if and one more, because we talked about young girls. Young girls need to see role models in whatever careers they may choose, just so they can picture themselves doing those jobs someday. You can't be what you can't see. So they said that you can't be what you can't see. And the view of Earth is absolutely spectacular. And the feeling of looking back and seeing your planet as a planet is just an amazing feeling. So that's some of the things that they said about looking back at the planet. And they also added, it is a totally different perspective, and it makes you appreciate actually how fragile our existence our existence is. And they also said our future lies with today's kids and tomorrow's space exploration. So that's some of the things that they said and all of that. So DJ Silver Fox and everything. One of the things I was going to ask is, and then I'm going to see if you can guess who that person was. But before I get to your guess, what are some of the things that you would say to our young women that are thinking about going into either mental health field or going into a field that they may not be necessarily being encouraged to go in? You definitely were not encouraged in a lot of ways when you were a kid. So when you're talking to kids now, what are some of the words of encouragement that you give to our young folks? You're on mute.
Sorry, I was just letting you go.
Yeah.
I think to be selective about who you surround yourself with. Start there. Right? Like there's many sayings that go out there that relate to that. It's like who you surround yourself with. So really is important to have a system of individuals that will continue to motivate you in your dreams and in your aspirations. And if it's not in your direct family, hopefully there's somebody out in the community that you can find that you can connect with. And I guess that's where, you know, there's work to be done, is helping people connect with other people and what they need.
Yeah, there's definitely that kind of work to be done and all of that. And there's a lot of work to be done in that regards and everything. Unfortunately, we've not come as far as we would like to come in these kind of situations and all of that. But a lot of great leaders in the past are giving us kind of that roadmap to hopefully use them as encouragement. But definitely, I agree that we've not come as far. I know one of the things that I've talked about is that I've actually got we've had some shows in the past that were dealing with like Martin Luther King and and Malcolm X and some of their famous and iconic speeches. And it was occurring to us that all of these iconic speeches that they gave some 50 years ago. And like I was a child when Martin Luther King was giving his speech and everything. Literally, I think I was 6 or 7. But a lot of the things that he was talking about, unfortunately, are still issues that we face today in this modern time. And you would think that we would have come a lot further than we've actually come and everything, but we still got a long way to go. But I do have hope that we'll get there, but definitely you would think that we would be much further than we actually are based on the fact of where society is. But definitely, I'm sure that you thought that same thing, because you probably read some history books and read some other books and run some of the icons in your life. And speaking of which, who are some of the people that you would say personally influence you in your life? So who are some of your personal influences, people that inspire you in all that you do?
Gosh, that's a good one. I mean, I just as a younger watching Oprah, I would always watch Oprah at 4:00. She was just one of my favorites for so many years, just watching her, how she would interview and how she would have these conversations on these different topics, and she's just well-spoken, and then she would share her own story and her struggles, but still always just being such an advocate. I just have always found her like, you know, inspirational. So she was just, when I was younger, like one just watching on TV that was like there, that I felt that I could just, you know, absorb and aspire to be.
No, I agree with you. Oprah's a great person. I don't think I've ever met Oprah physically, but I've met people that knew her. I definitely got the chance to meet Stedman Graham, her longtime significant other, and I've definitely had a chance to
her
meet
best
him.
Friend.
Yep. So I had a chance to meet him a couple of times, and before they passed, because they actually performed it at the Cultural Arts Center that I'm part of. I had the pleasure of meeting Ruby and Ozzy, because Ruby was actually doing a play and Ozzy came to surprise her. I believe it was on their anniversary. So like I said, Ruby was doing one of her one woman plays and Ozzy was taking time off. So he flew down from New York, if I remember correctly, to surprise Ruby and to celebrate the anniversary at the Hayti Heritage Center. So that was just one of those great stories where I got to be right there in the middle and see that transpire. And definitely, I know a friend of mine, Calvin Anderson, has actually worked for Ruby and Ozzy when they were living. So he's here
Wow.
and moved back into this area, moved back into, well, actually, I think he's now back in Atlanta, but he was between Atlanta and North Carolina. But definitely great folks, and I've had the pleasure of meeting them and everything. Did you have any guess as to who this amazing person might be?
So yeah, I live in Florida and I live near the Space Coast. So you think I would be very like informed in this area, and I really don't have very many guesses. Like one name comes to mind, Katherine Johnson, which is just a woman that's created a legacy in that space. But no, I don't really know who that could
Well, I will let you know, and then I'll bring up another one as well, and this one might be easier. But that is the world famous Sally Ride.
Sally Ride.
So Sally Ride.
I know that's Sally Ride. Yes. Oh my goodness.
Yes. Yeah. So she had her own school and her own organization that was doing all kinds of amazing things. But yeah, that's who that was Sally Ride. So that was our first mystery guest, and I think I'll bring up number 2 as well, and then I might save 3 for later. But definitely, I'm going to bring up some clues of number 2, and there's a dead giveaway clue as to one of their clues as well. So one of them is not as much of a dead giveaway, but there is one that I consider a dead giveaway. She was the daughter of a Cherokee and Black mother and a white father she never knew. And from the age of 8, she grew up with relatives in an ethnically diverse section of Harlem, New York. At 16, she joined Katherine Dunham's dance troupe and toured the United States, Mexico, South America, and Europe. When the Dunham Company returned to the United States, the multilingual lady, and I just almost gave the clue away, so we're going to get rid of that one. And she made her acting debut as Helen of Troy in the movie entitled Time Runs, an Orson Welles adaptation of Faust. And this is something I did not know. After she publicly criticized the Vietnam War at a 1968 White House luncheon in the presence of the First Lady, Lady Bird Claudia Johnson, her career went into a severe decline. So she actually went into a severe decline after that. Huh?
Now I gotta guess.
I know you're thinking. The price we pay for being ourselves is worth it. And she's also well known for a particular role, which has to do with something that definitely is an animal that I'm sure the silver fox may even have one of those filters about that particular animal and all of that. But it says it's all about falling in love with yourself and sharing that love with someone who appreciates you rather than looking for love to compensate for a self-love deficit. So that's one of the things that they said about them. And I love this quote as well. I have used all the manure that has been thrown on me as fertilizer to make me stronger. So she said that she's used all that manure that folks have thrown on her to make her stronger and all of that. And I'm sure that you can relate to that as well. You just use that to make you stronger. You don't use it as something as a negative and all of that. And she also said, I've never felt that fear is my enemy. Fear is the friend. It offers me a chance to stay alert, keep growing, continue creating something new. If you don't take that sort of risk, you learn nothing. And I'm sure that you'll be able to relate to this as well. And it's actually something about man-female relationships. But she said, a man has always wanted to lay me down, but he never wanted to pick me up. So she said, a man has always wanted to lay me down, but never wanted to pick me up. And then she also said, the river is constantly turning and bending, and you never know where it's going to go and where you'll wind up. And then she also said, following the bend in the river, and that's part of the same quote, following the bend in the river and staying on your own path means that you are on the right track. Don't let anyone deter you from that. And this is another one that I think you can relate to as well. My recipe for life is not being afraid of myself, afraid of what I think, or of my opinion. So
Yes.
not afraid of what you think or of my opinions.
Yeah.
And she also has this to say about greed, which is greed can be very dangerous because you sacrifice your soul for the sake of something material, and then you start sacrificing people in order to keep that which is material. And then she said, I am learning all the time. The tombstone will be my diploma. So she said, the tombstone will be my diploma and all of that. And she said, don't depend on people, on other people to be responsible for you. Don't make yourself stressed out over nonsensical things like material things. So she was saying, whatever you do, don't do that. Don't be getting caught up in their madness and everything. She also said, I'm a dirt person. I trust the dirt. I don't trust diamonds and gold. And then my giveaway clue, because I think that you've already got it everything, but I'm going to bring up the giveaway clue in a minute. But she also said this, I don't go for very handsome man, like they say in England. Toy boys break too easily. So,
Wow.
and she also said everything should be done with moderation and using it common sense. So she said everything should be done with moderation and using common sense. But before I get to who this particular person is and everything, and then I'll bring up the clue that I think is the giveaway clue and everything. But Silver Fox, do you have any idea who that might be?
I was gonna go with Jane Fonda.
No, not Jane
No,
Fonda. No, but this is another clue. As you've witnessed,
Catwoman.
Catwoman is the ultimate diva. From the pages of comic books to both small and big screens, Catwoman continues to evolve and mature like a true cat. Catwoman is a unique breed, never taking the same form twice. Whatever form she takes, she'll always reign supreme. A dog may be man's best friend, but a cat is everyone's favorite feline fatale or female fatale. Right?
Man, I thought I knew my pop culture, but apparently not.
You don't know that particular one?
I don't know. I'm like not catching the clues today. And normally I'm okay with trivia. I love trivia, so I'm kind
No
of stumped.
problem. But
Catwoman, actress.
Think of the favorite cat. Think of the famous cat women, and there's only really
Halle Berry
that people are known for,
um,
and only one of them of the famous cat women. And I'll just use it this way: they were the cat women on TV, but one of the cat women on TV, but only one of the cat women was known as an African American cat woman. Because actually, there are two. Because Holly was a Catwoman as well. So
yeah, that's why I saw Halle Berry, but I don't know the TV version.
The TV version featured this young lady when she was much younger, and I can't remember if she's still around or not, but none other than Eartha Kitt.
Eartha Kitt, gorgeous. Yeah. Those quotes resonate. I feel like we talked about all those topics today.
I was going to say, we covered a lot of those topics.
My heart is with her. Okay, great. That was perfection. Great job, Mark.
Like I said, she's just these are some amazing folks and all of that. They are truly amazing go back, individuals.
Do some research on her. Fantastic.
Eartha Kitt was a true, she did not play. And actually, she fought against the Vietnam War. And actually, her career kind of took a tailspin after she did that. And then it came back after she did some later movies. But yeah,
that's why I thought Jane Fonda only, because I know she was an activist against the Vietnam War and she lost a lot because of that stance. But got it now. Never gonna forget her.
Cannot forget Eartha Kitt. Eartha Kitt is truly amazing. Okay. So do you have any cat filters?
Oh God, yes, I do, but oh my goodness. I'd have to give me a minute to look.
See if we can find a cat filter for the Silver Fox.
Oh goodness. Okay. A cat filter. I'm not as fast as Tim. Shout out to Tim.
That's all right. Nobody's
I also want to say shout out to StreamYard and shout out to Snap Camera.
Oh yes.
I mean,
I'm going to try to get my Snap Camera working because, like I said, I tried to download it and it did not cooperate. But I just had the lovely remote computer people clean up my computer because it would not erase the old version. So they have finally erased the old version. So I'm going to try to download the new version, and hopefully it'll work this time because the old version, it was not letting me download. So that was my issue. So I was going like, good grief, you can't win for losing. So I know Tim and them have been trying to get me to play with the filters as well. So
I don't know. I don't know. Let's see. Let's go with this. Cat meow.
Can't meow.
This is, I think, a bunny. That's a
That's,
bunny, right?
yeah, that
That
looks
looks
like a
like
bunny.
that looks like a bunny. So I
Yeah,
don't know.
could be a
I
cat.
mean, they have a cat that does like just a cat, and I
Yeah,
don't.
a kitten. You're now a kitten.
Yeah, no.
Okay. That's
Yeah,
okay.
I'll play with filters though. It's all good, right?
Play with filters is always good. I remember one time you'll get a kick out of this, and actually they loved this when it happened. But one time we were doing this show, or it might have been my other show on Monday, and Tim and Brian were my guests, and of course it kind of comes back to what you had happened to you earlier today. But the power knocked me out, but I had already put them in the stream, so they played for a good hour or 30 minutes. And my bosses at International Broadcast Media loved them so
Yeah.
much that they actually brought them in for their Halloween special and for a couple of other things. But yeah, they saved that show because, like I said, they kicked me out. I'm sitting over there frantically trying to figure out what's going on, not knowing what's happening on the other side. But by the time I got
Wow.
there, they had a full show and everything, and were thoroughly enjoying themselves. So I was like, I can just go back and duck back out again. So y'all are having
I
way too much fun.
know. Yeah, I reached out and I was so like sad. I'm like, no, I don't want to miss out, but I just have to let you know just in case so you can prepare. But yeah, I was excited to come and hang out with you and
No, I
have
love
this
you hanging out.
conversation. So thank
I
you for
love
the
you hanging out. You've been
invitation.
having great conversation and all of that, and definitely some amazing conversation. What's one of the things that you try to leave as your message of encouragement just to your clients? And then I've got a canned question I ask just about everybody that is similar, but I was just wondering, when you're talking to your clients, what's some of the
Mhm.
words that you give in terms of messages of encouragement?
Well, it's always with, purpose of inspiring. I like to give them like a solid objective, something clearly that needs to be done, completed, right? Like a homework, essentially. But, it's to give them the tools and the experience to complete that task and to empower them. And of course, it's, just encouraging them to find ways to start building, right? What they need, the structures around them. That's it. I mean, it's really just like when you're helping someone, just working with what they have and helping them identify what they have, and how they can repurpose it to add more value and more quality to their situation.
Yeah,
So,
that makes sense. And
help
do you think
people
that either one of
open their
your
eyes.
kids will go into the same field, that they will go into this field of social work and or media, or have they like told you, no, mom, we want to do something totally different? Like maybe one of them told you
Yeah.
they want to be a sports figure or something else. Or are they
Yeah.
looking at doing something similar, or they're looking at you like, no, that's all right.
I mean, I think the little one's just not, there, but the older one, I just know probably going a totally opposite direction. And I've encouraged that, I've encouraged them to explore other options and like educate and research before you just jump into what you think you want to do or what you think you know and what you think that is all that's available. That's such a misconception that a lot of people, individuals have, is that it's going to take a little work. It does take a little work. You have to be vigilant.
Yeah, you definitely got to be diligent. Diligent. You're right. Definitely have to be diligent in all of that. Now,
And vigilant.
this one, I think that you should definitely get with no problem at all. But I'm going to bring up the last one of the pop culture and everything. Everyone knows that picture of her tanned in a red bathing suit, flashing that famous smile and a little something extra. The shot blended supermodel with innocent Southern babe. The poster was plastered on the bedroom walls of boys and men worldwide. It happens to be the best-selling poster ever, selling over 12 million copies in 1976 alone. And this I did not know
Oh,
about
I
this
know.
person as well. On the shot, the actress styled her own hair and makeup with no mirror. Her blonde highlights pop out with a beach wave, and that's because she squeezed lemon juice into her locks doing the photo shoot and all of that. So definitely that's a little bit about this particular person. And when she was sick, her partner revealed that all the other Charlie's Angels would come to visit her at the time, sitting around the bed and giving her desserts. And the most important of their visit, the most important part of the visit, they laughed. And Tori Spelling once said that their connection was so strong that even after our mystery guest passed away in 2009, a psychic helped Tori communicate with her old friend. So Tori went out and used a psychic to communicate with her old friend and everything. And the actress always expressed her love for magazine shoots, even more so than being on the set for the filming of a movie. Maybe that's because she usually did her own hair and makeup. And she actually had a dramatic moment doing her role in the dramatic TV movie The Burning Bed. She shed light on domestic violence and was part of a history-making moment. The film displayed a 1-800 number afterwards, which was a hotline for victims to reach out to. It was the first TV movie to do so and strive for gender justice. So I know that's something else we've been talking about is gender justice. And it would surprise many to find out that this lady's original calling was science, microbiology to be exact. As a student at the University of Texas, she was a gorgeous science nerd. So she was known as a science nerd. And she also had, and I'll just read this one, a contract in her home, a clause in her contract that she had to be home by 7 p.m. The reason was that she wanted to be home in time to get not necessarily her beauty sleep, but she wanted to cook dinner for her husband at that particular time. So she wanted to go there and cook dinner. And on June 25th, 2009, she died from cancer. Unfortunately, on that same day, the King of Pop also died, and therefore her death was somewhat overshadowed by the death of the King of Pop and all of that. And along the quotes, because I do believe in quotes, and God gave women intuition and femininity used properly. The combination easily jumbles the brain of any man that I've ever met. So she was saying that you women are very good at using your intuition and your femininity, and it totally messes us guys up and everything when y'all do it correctly and all of that. So that's one of the things that she said. She said she deeply believes in her own possible will to overcome even the most daunting of challenges. And through it, she said, throughout the journey of my life, I have maintained a strong faith in the power of the human spirit to overcome adversity. I deeply believe in one's own positive will to overcome even the most daunting of challenges. So she definitely said that, and she also did not necessarily think that she was a beauty queen. She said, I thought Marilyn Monroe was the most beautiful woman in the world and Elizabeth Taylor breathtaking. But when I see myself on the screen, I say, oh, shoot, what are they talking about? So she did not think of herself as being a beauty queen. And she said, everything has positive and negative consequences. And she said, every day is a good day. Just some days are better. And let's see, that's the last one. And last but not least, she said, I'm not too passionate about my work. Acting takes not only concentration, it takes creativity, it takes your soul. So that's some of the things that this particular lady said as well. So do we have any idea who that person might be?
I do know who that is. I'm just trying to think of her name, and I was like not trying to Google. But I know she passed away. Like I knew from the clues. I just don't. Goldie Hawn. Goldie
Hawn. No.
Charlie's Angels. She was blonde with Charlie's Angels. Married for a long time. Passed away from cancer. Oh my God, what's her
name? You're saying all the right things. She was married.
I know.
I will bring it up. It was none other than Farrah Fawcett.
Farrah Fawcett. There we go.
Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful Farrah Fawcett. Yeah.
Farrah Fawcett, Ryan O'Neal. That's who she was married to for those many years. Ryan O'Neal. That's the husband you were trying to remember that she was married to and everything. But yes, that's some of our folks that are our mystery guests for today. And definitely that's part of what we do. We always have that aspect of the show as well, where I just do that. And sometimes people will even guess off in the audience and everything. So it's one of the online dinner party fun is that I get to do research and then see who that's out there that knows the trivia and all of that. So definitely a great job, and you've done an amazing job as well. So I greatly appreciate you joining us and all. One of the things I was going to ask you as we get ready to slowly wind down is one of the things that I always ask all of my guests is any words of encouragement that they would give for the audience. Because like I said before, this is a platform that is available on not just here in the United States, but we have listeners as well as shows out of Nigeria, out of India, out of England, as well as a number of other places. So I'm always wanting to hear from my guests their words of encouragement, their words of positivity, which I know that you're all about positivity, that you would like to share with the global audience that we have here on the International Broadcast Media.
Wow, globally, I've been really extending myself to have more international connections, international contacts, and it's really been eye-opening, the stories I've been hearing, and just from all different parts of the world. So I think now's an amazing opportunity for anyone that has the ability to Zoom and to be able to connect to just extend themselves to those kinds of experiences to really broaden their minds and conversations at least. Even just chatting and engaging in streams like this, where really they can be part of the conversation, where they can just start to explore new conversations in safe spaces that are trying to be created virtually now, just so there is more awareness and more opportunities for connections and networking and growth and development on a global scale, on a unified global scale.
And how important do you think the social media has been to you? Like I said, I know I'm a big fan of LinkedIn, and I know you are as well. Brian, of course, is a LinkedIn ambassador, but I was just wondering your thoughts about the importance of social media. I know sometimes it's misused. There are people
Yeah.
who misuse it in ways, including the bullying aspect, but I was just wondering your thoughts about the positive use of social media and how you use social media, because we do know that it can be misused, unfortunately, as well.
Absolutely. Right. So it's just like anything, the good, the bad, just like in the quote, the positive and the negative, right? The yin, the yang. Always taken into account as a human, as an entity, as an idea, as a concept that you want to consider. But I just think that it's just so important to um, stay true to you and your values and what you're doing, and listen to your heart and your intuition to be able to move forward. That goes back to any individual that may be in solitude, that wants to reach out and extend themselves. Don't be scared to. There's someone out there that will connect with you. Don't give up. Don't
Yeah.
give up, because there's people that want to connect. And if right now is as Tim would say, now more than ever, are people, you know, those that like us that want to are extending ourselves, and those that are in need, we want to encourage them to just continue to open up the world just a little bit more, right?
Yeah, no doubt about it. That's actually one of the things that my friend Zach says on his show, one that he's doing on his own platform that he launched off from
Aw.
IBM TV called Nine on the Grind. And then he does funk music with Zach, but he's always talking about that we are here for people that need that ear. Like if they need an ear, that we're here. And he's meaning both himself, myself, any of the other members of the team, whether it's his team on Nine on the Grind, which I'm part of, or his team
Mhm.
on IBM TV, which he is also part of it as well. So we're oftentimes talking about the fact that if you got those ears and you need to have somebody listen to you, that we're here to have those conversations. And he's gone through some stuff as well, because he even acknowledges the fact that while he is a musician and a very successful funk musician, he also talks about the fact that he's bipolar as well. So he talks about what he's gone through in that aspect. So he's definitely not one who's afraid to talk about the good, the bad, and everything else that he's involved in. So definitely, I think that we need more of that going on and more of that kind of encouragement. And that's one of the things that I love about what you're doing. I noticed you had Reverend Carl on one of your shows. I was going back and watching some of the shows, and I noticed you had Reverend Carl on. Hopefully, you'll get me on one of your shows as well. So I would love to have you. I'd love to be on one of them whenever I can make myself available and all of that. I think there might be some conflict with the time of your show and my show, but I might have to just take a day off or do a pre-record so I can pop in and spend some time with you in your platform and all of that. But what are some of the shows coming up that you've got coming up that folks can look forward to? Because I know you've got a show probably next Monday already booked and scheduled, and you've got a show for the first couple of weeks in April. So what are some of the shows that we can expect to see of yours that you might have already recorded and taped?
Sorry, I was just looking around for. Oh, where's my Snapchat? There it is. So I was looking at my calendar, but next week, I really want to highlight bipolar. And individuals that have that, but just again, not to focus on the diagnosis, but really focus on breaking that stigma. Like, that's it's the preconceived notions and judgments, right? So
Right.
that's something. And I know autism awareness is coming up. So really neurodiversity, talking about neurodiversity and those bringing awareness to that. So those are some of like the weeks that I have planned out that I'm really trying to prepare for and highlight.
Yep, and you're doing a great job of highlighting a lot of very important issues and all of that. And I know that you've touched on a number of things already. What were some of the things that you learned from Reverend Carl? I know I had him on the show, and he's definitely gave his word and everything. But I was wondering, what were some of the things that you learned from Reverend Carl? And if you had Nancy on yet, because I know she was on this platform one time, and I didn't know whether you had Nancy yet.
Nancy was my first guest.
Okay, cool.
So Nancy has been such an inspiration to me early on in this journey. I knew her before I started live streaming. I knew when I met her that her story, her energy, her human beauty was really something that I gravitated towards. And I think that when I shared my idea and she was just so receptive to it, and she encouraged me again building those networks and trying to find my way, and staying connected to my true desire and goal. But that's how I connected with her, and that's how that she really enabled for this dream to start, to begin. Then going with Rev, Rev, me and Rev, we worked together in one of Tim's courses. Tim has been, really helpful, but Carl has been there too as he's been growing. I feel that his inspiration, his word, his story is really powerful, and his energy is, God, just so caring and just warm, and I just thought it needed to be highlighted as well. And I want to continue to encourage those individuals when they're my guests. I want them to be the most important thing, and I want them to be able to share their perspective so we can respect it and assist them to share their story and break stigmas along the way. So Carl continues to inspire me in his daily word. He's just so active in his community and what he does and how he collaborates. It's just really, truly special what he does in his way too. And Nancy's been taking off in her own direction in her work and in her calling. So really just, again, sources of light and sources of love and sources that really just want to do greater good and, help heal along the way and shine the light for all.
Yeah, it's interesting you use the term light because that's actually a term that my friend Zach uses regularly. He talks about the fact of us all being those of us that are trying to spread positive energy. He calls us light warriors, and he has some
We
other thoughts
are.
as well. So he's
Yes.
oftentimes talking about the fact of being a light warrior, and I would definitely argue that you are a light warrior as well, and we definitely are doing much of that great work to support even people in hard times and things of that nature. Because even you have to support them in both the good times and the bad time as well. On a sadder note, and I did want to give a shout out to her as well, as you heard me mention earlier, Kim Calhoun, one of our founders. And like I said, I could not remember whether it was her or Nick that came up with that whole quote about education and where we are in education. But last week, it was last week that it happened. She actually lost her husband of 40 years and all of that. So definitely
Sorry.
our prayers do continue to go out to her. I know that tomorrow I've got to jump on their World News edition, and a lot of other people are jumping in because that's usually kind of one of her babies and everything. But we're just kind of jumping in as she's going through grief and all of that. Because I want to say they were married for almost 40 years or something like that, because she was 17 at the time that she met her husband. And I think there's like a 3 or 4 year stretch of period that they were together and all. So definitely, I know that she appreciates any support and prayers that people want to send her, yourself included, Silver Fox. But definitely, I know that she's always encouraged, and she's oftentimes watching our show and seeing how we're doing it. She is one of the founders of this particular platform, and we definitely send our prayers out to her and hope that she will continue this journey. And I know that her husband was helping her in this journey along with others as well. So definitely just wanted to let folks know that might be wanting to have their thoughts on her and their prayers on her as well.
Yeah, absolutely. My condolences to her family. I can only imagine the grieving, and the serious heartache that they're all going through right now.
And they actually have kids. I think they all have adult kids. I want to say that they're boys, if I remember correctly, but I want to say
Oh,
they're
the
like in
whole
their
family.
20s and their, yeah. So it's a whole family that they have and everything. And you're right. Anytime that you go through that, and it doesn't help when it takes place during this COVID era, because I know that even in my case, I haven't had any immediate folks, but I have had uncles and an uncle that passed early this year, and some family friends that passed, but you can't do the usual form of grieving because of the COVID protocols. So I remember when Uncle passed last year, we actually had a good crowd of people
Yeah.
there, more than we expected, but you still had to wear the mask. And when people were doing the songs, they had to take off the mask, do the song, and then put the mask back on. So definitely, I'm thinking more and more people are getting vaccinated, and hopefully we'll see more and more of this kind of cure going on, and we'll be able to get more out so I can get to the ocean and look at the dolphins, because I did not go to the beach this year because I wasn't quite protocol.
Right.
Oh,
The
we
guidelines.
definitely
I was thinking the CDC guidelines is what I was
yes.
thinking earlier.
Yeah, you got to stay in those guidelines. And actually, my dad and my younger brother, they go every year down to the beaches here in North Carolina, but they had already gone through the protocol. They had their own little pods that they were going to be in. I had not created a pod of my own and everything, but hopefully this coming winter, I can go down there, because it's usually held like right around January 1st or the new year and all of that. I did go right before COVID, so not the 2021 version, but the 2020 version. And it was a great time. I remember when I first got there, my nephews were playing football. And as soon as I came there with my future soon to be sister-in-law had come and picked me up, and we were going down there. And when as soon as I got there, they were like, "Uncle Mark, join the game." So
Aw.
jumping in the middle of
Yeah.
the game and throwing footballs and all of that, and definitely seeing the ocean. And I am a big lover of the ocean and a lover of the sea, and definitely when you can catch those views of the dolphins or even the smaller animals walking around the ocean, I'm a big fan of that. I'm actually jealous of you because you get to do it all the time, because you get to go over there to the ocean all the time and catch that
Yeah.
ocean life and all of that. So that's one of the great advantages that you have being there and everything. Just really quickly, like I said, I am getting ready to wrap everything up. But
Okay.
what do you think are some of the stereotypes that people have of Latin America in general, or just your culture, that you wish people would get rid of? I'm always curious about people's conquering stereotypes, and there's so many stereotypes about Latin culture. So I was just wondering, what's like the one that's kind of your pet peeve? Because I think that there are stereotypes about all cultures, but definitely there are several within the Latin American culture. But I was just wondering, what are the ones that actually are the ones that, like, you can't, when you hear them, you're like, they didn't say that again.
That maybe, I guess the one that I don't prefer the most is that we're loud, super loud. We talk a lot with our hands, and we talk a lot with our voices. We like to make sure our voices project. But it can be put down and derogatory, and then like other kinds of issues come from just that that. So that one's one of the ones that I don't really prefer, is we're projected as loud.
Right.
Our culture is positive and full of life, full of energy. Music has been always such a fundamental, I think. And music is actually in all cultures, right? All cultures have music. So really, just to be more mindful, I think, of how people use those stereotypes and continue to perpetuate those stereotypes. But that's my least favorite one, is, oh, they're so loud, you're so loud,
Yeah, you're right about music, because that's actually one of the things that Zach and some of my other musician friends have always talked about, is how music can be that unifying factor. Because when you're there listening to
More
good
so.
music, you don't care necessarily about what the person's
The
orientation
language.
is, what their race is, or a number of other dividing factors that exist in society. You're just there to support the music, even more so than sports, because sports you might care about your team versus their team versus all that other aspect, whereas music just seems to be very unifying, whereas
unifying
sports,
and healing.
right.
Yeah, absolutely. Music has lots of properties and studies behind music, right? So that's definitely near and dear to my heart, just from a cultural aspect of my grandpa being a musician and having musical aspirations and talents, and my dad. So, for our culture, yeah. And food, I think food is another one that can really bring people together, where it can start to chip away at some of the misconceptions and stereotypes that cultures.
Yeah, definitely. And one of the things that I would agree that y'all have that is a plus, but sometimes people try to make it a negative, is the fact of that family unity. Because I know a lot of times, whether it's in the Latin community or the Asian community, you'll have numbers of generations together, or at least living close together. Whereas sometimes other cultures will see that as a negative. I actually see that as a positive, because I believe in learning both from your elders as well as learning from the youth. Because I sometimes think that the youth can teach us quite a bit as well. So I think that that's something that we don't do enough of. Is we don't use the power of the unity. But I think that there are certain cultures that definitely, the Puerto Rican and certain other Latin cultures, that definitely do that. I know the Indian culture is very good for that as well. But I'm thinking that that's something that you probably did enjoy growing up, is having that
Oh
attachment
God,
to your family and your
are you
uncles
kidding
and
me?
aunts.
Yeah, I mean, always having those family picnics, those family reunions every year, and la finca, as they say, like going out to the property and everybody's bringing the food and setting up all the games, and just to connect with all those cousins and aunts and uncles.
We want to
All
see the
right,
other
my
stuff. Yeah, we want to see the other star too before we get ready to get you off.
oh,
We want to see the other star.
he's a shy. He's waiting, so I'm gonna have to get going here in a
No, I
few minutes.
understand. Definitely. I'm definitely getting ready to let you go. And I definitely have thoroughly enjoyed the conversation. I'll put on a couple of our spots of some of our other shows, and I was getting ready to wrap it up anyway. But definitely, you have been truly amazing. And I can talk to you, as you know, forever. But I do know you've got mommy duties and other things that you've got to take care of. But yeah, I definitely consider you somebody that, like some of the other members of Brian's tribe, I definitely consider you somebody very special in my life as well. So I just really wanted to let you know that, and look forward to us doing more collaboration work and more things together, whether it's on this platform or whether it's on the Silver Fox Talks or a number of other things that we've got going on. So I'm gonna let you go and do the whole mom thing and everything. So any last words that you want to share with our audience
I
before I let you go? Bye bye.
Yeah, I just appreciate this opportunity where we can have this conversation and allowing me to come into my own self with you. For me, some of the questions you asked were absolutely questions I've never been asked on a live yet, and it really giving you the answer. Giving you the answer I did was really just genuine and true, and it's something that I would really want to continue to explore.
Definitely. We can definitely do that. We can definitely explore that. I know that mommy look. I remember a story, and I'm going to share it with the mommy look, and you can keep it off mute and everything. But I remember one time when my brother, who had done work with foster kids and everything, the foster kid came with a boyfriend, and they were probably teenagers and all of that. So it was one of the foster kids my brother was taking care of before he got his own kids and everything. And I just remember that mom gave him that look that basically was the look that all moms can give, which is basically that look that, I brought you into this world, I can take you out of this world. So that look, and all moms have got that look at one time or another. So mom gave this young gentleman, who was not even the person that Malik was connected with. Malik is my younger brother, but the person was actually the young lady, but she brought her boyfriend. And all I remember is that on the trip back, and at the time I think I was living at a house in Durham, but on the trip back, I just remember this man being totally silent, not saying anything the whole trip back, because mom had given him that mom look, which is basically that look that says that, and I'm not even your mom. So it's a look that you moms give to anybody that breaks the rules and everything. So mom had given that look, and he was good the whole trip. I don't think he said a peep on the whole trip back from Rocky Mount. And the trip from Rocky Mount back to, I want to say they were staying in Raleigh, it's probably a good hour, maybe an hour and a half. So he did not say a word, because mom had given him that mom look. And I saw you give a couple of those mom looks as well. So I know how those mom looks can be. So definitely, I look forward to seeing you back on the show in the near future and everything. But I'm going to let you go take care of your dinner plans and your other plans with the young ones. But definitely, you have been truly amazing. And
Thank
I
you,
look
Mark.
forward to being on the show with you again in the near future, and for us to continue developing this friendship bond and everything else that we have already created. And definitely look forward to us doing more great things together.
Thank you again so much. Your time's been just appreciated. Thank you for having me as a guest, and loving it. I appreciate it. And to all your viewers and the amazing international community that you continue to promote and inspire the work. I want to support that. I want to support you and your community as well.
Sounds great. And like I said, I was being very serious. I was already talking to Nick earlier today about the fact of us needing to get some more programming, including some more primetime programming. So definitely, if you've got friends in the acting community or anywhere in your own show or any other communities, I know that we're definitely open to expanding and hoping to have hundreds of shows within the next year or so, as opposed to the amount that we have currently. So we're definitely in that expansion mode. We've actually created our own website, ibntv.tv, using Vimeo, as well as the other platforms that I mentioned to you, YouTube and Facebook, and a number of other things. And I think we might even be looking at Roku in the next couple of months or so, everything. So definitely we're continuing that expansion and that growth process. But anything that you can bring to us, we would definitely welcome it. And like I said, I'm on the board. Anything I can do to help make that happen, I will make happen. And I've already told Brian and Tim, as well as Carl and some of our other mutual friends, that as well. So definitely just going to try to continue growing it and make it as powerful as we can make it.
Perfect. Sounds great. I'm all aboard. Like, ready to work, ready to shine the light. Let's go. That's
what it's all about. Cool. Right. Well, I'm going to let you bounce off. I'm going to find a couple of these ads, including the Gamers Den, which, by the way, if your kids are into the gamers world, and that means that they're into video games and all of that, they might be interested in catching this show. I know we've got some amazing guests on this coming show tomorrow. So we got some people coming out of the world of cosplay. So they'll be talking about cosplay. And I think we've got some other guests that are coming on as well. So that'll be at noon tomorrow. We'll be having a whole conversation around video games and a number of other things in that realm. So definitely that's one of our truly great shows. Like I said, I think this may say 1 o'clock, but it's actually at 12 o'clock. So at 12 o'clock, we'll be having the Gamers Den. So let's check out and see what the Gamers Den is all about. That's right. Truly amazing guest, the Silver Fox, joining us and sharing a little bit of her story and what she's all about, and definitely doing some truly great work as one of those light warriors, as my friend Zach calls us, and all of that. So definitely a truly amazing guest. Look forward to having her come back and sharing even more of her story and all of that. But definitely enjoyed our conversation, enjoyed what we were talking about, and definitely look forward to having her come back again in the not too distant future. But right now, let's check out this important public service announcement.
What's the coolest thing about your job?
Engineers take the very best of science and technology and solve problems.
Did you know all that stuff when you were my age?
All I knew is that I really liked math and I really liked science.
Hello, my name is Natural Breeden, and I'm introducing a new author and her publication. Dr. Veronica Hardy is an inspirational speaker, author, and educator. Through her writing and public speaking, she uses the power of story to reveal and confront challenges experienced by the readers and listeners. And this is showcased through her book, A Letter to My Sisters, Reflecting on God's Promises. Dr. Hardy, what influenced the title of your book?
I can say, now I did change the title a few times. It went from, I think I started with calling it Tamar's View, to capture more from her perspective. Mm-hmm. Then I switched it to Everybody Has Their Stuff. You know, we all carry something. Yes. And then finally I decided to pray. You know, God, what do you really want people to receive or know from this book? Mm-hmm. And so that's when A Letter to My Sisters, Reflecting on God's Promises, really came to me, because I felt it was really fitting that I was writing something for other women to read from my heart to theirs.
Well,
thank you.
Now, Dr. Hardy, why did you choose the story about Tamar as the basis of the book?
I feel like oftentimes we don't talk much about the women in the Bible who have gone through difficulties, mm-hmm. such as her. She was raped or sexually assaulted by her half-brother. Okay, and I just thought that was an important story to be able to bring out. And I thought it was important to kind of bring out her story, how she responded to it, so we could also look at how we respond to it as well.
Absolutely. Now, Dr. Hardy, how does the story of Tamar serve as an example for you?
I would say strength, for one. It seems like she didn't hide it at all. And I think sometimes if someone were to ask us, we want to cover it. We don't want to share it. Why? Mm-hmm. Because we're carrying the shame, or we feel like we're guilty that we caused the situation to happen to us. Mm-hmm. So I was glad she was able to share it with her brother, acknowledge it, and then he said to her, don't take it to heart. Mm-hmm. And that message spoke to me, that we don't have to carry what someone else did to us. We don't have to make that become part of our identity, but for us to remember who we are, because she was a princess. Okay? And that's not taken away because of what someone else did to her. And I just wanted us as women to remember who we are in God's eyes.
Absolutely. Thank you for that.
Hello, and welcome to the North Star Initiative. I'm Glendola Massenberg Beasley, and in this time of COVID, the North Star Initiative serves as an accelerator to promote, support, and secure funding for small, rural, and urban businesses. Our team is here to assist you with overcoming cash flow obstacles. Let's listen to Dr. Dennis Rogers as he interviews 3 local business owners as they share their experiences during these uncertain times.
My name is Dr. Dennis Rogers, and I'm being joined today by Dr. Tanya Armstrong. Welcome, Dr. Armstrong. Tell us a little bit about your business, Dr. Armstrong.
Absolutely. I am the owner of the Armstrong Center for Hope. It is an interdisciplinary practice of psychology where we specialize in psychological and spiritual wellness for all ages. We have a main office in Durham that has been functional for 10 years this month, actually. And we also opened a second office in Raleigh. in the fall of 2019. And so we've been providing individual, family, couple, and group psychotherapies, as well as psychological testing, consultations, and trainings to the public.
Who are your clients, Maxwell? Who do you do business with, and how does that interaction take place?
The majority of my business now, because it has changed, is farmers, commercial landscapers, landowners, people that are looking to maintain their equipment, to maintain their land.
Yes.
And then we still have a good number of residential customers with the lawnmowers and things like that to take care of their property, but mainly we're doing larger equipment now. The biggest thing to help someone in any trade or any craft is to treat the one person the same as you would the next one coming through the door. Mm-hmm. Because if they figure out that you're fair and that you're going to charge them fairly, you're going to charge Joe over here the same as John, mm-hmm. they'll come to you. Right. But if they think you give him a break and he's going to go out there and tell everybody else, hey, he cut me a break, that kind of thing, then all of a sudden you've just opened up a can of worms, mm-hmm. and you got to cut everybody a break.
We are a live entertainment company, and that's something that we pride ourselves on, and the experience, that face-to-face experience where you can actually feel the electricity and the spirit of the music bouncing off of the people in the audience. That's what's really important to us. So while we are looking at ways to incorporate streaming, what we really want to do is be patient and wait for the opportunity for us to gather, because music is healing, mm-hmm. and it's unifying. And so I think it'll be important for us when it's safer to gather and to really heal as a community and as a nation with some live music. And one thing that we love to do is contract and subcontract, like I said, with small businesses who have just as much on the line as we do as a yes. small business. So looking back at the festival and at our concerts, we make sure that we contract with transportation companies, with catering businesses, with marketing agencies that are small businesses and that are minority-owned businesses, so that everyone is getting a piece of this pie. Mm-hmm. Everyone is going for their own success. And in the end, because we all have a shared outcome, everyone's working hard to make it come to fruition.
Excellent.
Great job, Dr. Rogers. So business owners, if you're seeking a grant or business funding, our North Star Initiative offers a no-cost assessment for funding opportunities. Contact us via our website at www.gmbeasley.com. Your business could be featured with our next North Star promotion.
Producers, directors, I met designers, and then everybody says, oh, this is my 6th year coming, and oh, this is my 4th year coming.
Shout out to New York. We're in New York in like 7 hours.
Oh my gosh, yes, we have a 6:58 flight, so.
We gotta go home. We gotta go.
Yep.
Let me tell you something. Every single person that's come through the store has spoke so highly of you, and what a great event this is, yes.
I'm representing DJ Darryl, who is a platinum producer. He did the hit track for Tupac Shakur, Keep Your Head Up, Snoop Dogg, Keisha Cole.
All right, folks, so let me give you a little bit more of the news of the day. I usually do that right at the beginning. But, of course, we had that great conversation with the Silver Fox. So definitely I'll share some of the news of the day with you as well, some of the things that are going on. But it looks like there is a thing that's going on in the sense of workcation. So let's face it, you might need a vacation, but with the proliferation of work from anywhere, it's getting harder to unplug from the job. So it seems like a lot of folks are actually doing work while they're actually vacation. So it's saying for many, the solution is a workation, working while on vacation, with 74% of remote workers saying they consider it definitely going to work and still doing their work per a Harris poll. So, being out there on the beach and maybe you're actually doing some of your work as well. I know if I got to do work, I might as well be vacationing also and enjoying some of that vacation energy. So I would not be opposed to that as well. Some who have done it say it's a good way to boost morale and performance, but experts are warning that it can be a slippery slope. American workers already are underusing their vacation days, and with many working longer hours amid the pandemic, workations could drastically worsen burnout, according to Axios. So definitely that is a danger. If we're working all the time, we might not actually be enjoying the parts of a vacation. That is what vacation is all about. So definitely that's just some of the things that we have to think about when we're doing things along those lines. And by the way, don't forget that Disney's decision to change the release strategies for Black Widow, Cruella, and several other films is dealing another blow to struggling movie theaters. Both films will now simultaneously be released in the theaters and as premiere access offerings on Disney Plus for just around $30 or something like that. Disney says the move reflects our focus on providing consumer choice during the pandemic. It also signals the entertainment juggernaut's commitment to prioritizing Disney Plus. Warner Brothers is using a simultaneous HBO Max release strategy for 2021 films, but it said it would give cinemas a 45-day exclusive window in 2022. So at least folks are looking at some ways to make things available and good for the movie theaters as well. As one that sits on the board of a movie theater, I'm definitely hoping that more people will take that kind of like attitude of making sure that the movie theaters get access to the releases as well. So definitely keep that in mind, all of you folks that got the big brands and all of that. By the way, Yum Brands, owner of KFC and Taco Bell, is leaning more heavily into tech, announcing the second startup acquisition in weeks. In its latest move to acquire TikTok Technologies, lets customers order food by text and through the social media apps, as Yum looks to keep and increase market share while full service restaurants are reopening. Yum says sales hits a record $17 billion after pivoting toward tech in 2020, a 45% increase from 2019, according to CNN, which also notes that the chains, including McDonald's, Burger King, and Chipotle, were investing in tech before the pandemic, but the crisis made those upgrades even more critical. So they were already looking at getting involved in that whole tech field and all of that. So definitely that's one of the things that is going on in that sense. And by the way, there's also an article about Silicon Hill. So it says, look out, Silicon Valley. Silicon Hill is nipping at its heels. Austin, Texas is blowing up, with one expert even dubbing it the hottest market in the country right now for commercial real estate. Things may have once looked bleak for the Texas capital as the pandemic wore on and its biggest events like South by Southwest were canceled, but optimism has replaced despair, according to the New York Times. Businesses like Tesla and Oracle have relocated to the Sun Belt, which is strengthening its allure as a center of high-tech industry, and the city adds skyscrapers to its downtown neighborhood. That Austin and the Dallas-Fort Worth areas were first and second, respectively, on CBRE survey of America's top destinations for potential commercial real estate investment. So it looks like more and more people are looking at moving into that area of Texas. So we already knew that a lot of folks were doing California, and it looks like a lot of folks are checking into the Texas market as well. So a lot of things are going on in the sense of commercial real estate and all of that. So that's just some of the things that are going on in the world and all of that. So definitely just wanted to share a little bit of those thoughts with my listening audience and see what they've got to say about some of the things that they are learning and hearing as well. Right now, I'm getting ready to bring in, before we get ready to wrap up everything, some of the other great shows that exist here on this network. So I definitely want y'all to check out these truly amazing shows. We've got some great shows that are here on a consistent and a regular basis. So I'm going to try to bring up some of the ones that I am a fan of and see if we can let y'all check out what they are all about as well. Because like I said, there are some truly great and amazing shows that exist here on our platform, and we love highlighting them whenever possible, because they just do some great jobs and are definitely part of the great family that exists here doing some amazing things. Of course, one of them is my good friend Mike Show, the Mind Closet. So let's see what the Mind Closet is all about.
My name's Brandon. I'm a world traveler, foodie, and YouTuber. Together, you and I will find the best travel hacks, tips, and best places to explore. Join me as we find new adventures together, live only on IBM.TV.
And actually, that show has moved to Wednesdays, and we're hoping to get that up and running on the 31st, which will be next Wednesday. But I've got to get in touch with Win and find out how that is going and all of that. But that is definitely our plans to be moving that to Wednesday. And of course, we've got all kinds of other shows that are happening as well. And of course, we're trying to create some other new shows also. So some great conversations are being had here on this network, and some great, amazing things are happening here on the international broadcast media. Must thank Nick and Kim and the rest of the team and the rest of them for putting together this great platform and for us having these great conversations around a number of powerful issues and around a number of topics as we try to bring light to a number of issues that people are concerned about and that they've got on their mind as well. So of course, we've got some great shows and are continuing to develop even more even more great shows as we go along. But let's check out more about another one of our amazing shows. Don't forget that if you've got things that you'd like to be sharing with us or topics that you'd like to be involved in, or maybe you've got an entrepreneurship business, a creative business, or something else that you're a part of, we would love to hear from you. And of course, you can reach me at bluesradio@gmail.com. That's bluesradio@gmail.com. If you reach me there, then I will try to get you booked into one of these tremendous and great shows that we have, and definitely look forward to having you on the show as well. And by the way, we can always use help in terms of finances and all of that. So don't hesitate to give us support to our various shows that we do here by going to the PayPal. And the PayPal is emily@heytide.org. That's emily@heytide.org is the PayPal that I use and all of that. So definitely keep that in mind. And of course, we definitely appreciate any support that is given. I've also signed up with this thing called Give Me a Coffee, and I'll be running that link in the not too distant future as well, so that y'all can see about that possible way of donating. And of course, we do want you to go to the IBM TV website, ibmtv.tv, and check out the website where you can see some tremendous products that we have there. We've got everything from hoodies to cups to a number of other items as well. And I know that Brandon is constantly adding items also. So we are constantly adding items and just having more and more things that are coming on a regular basis. So definitely looking forward to seeing more and more of these truly amazing products, and for y'all getting the products and buying those products so that you can show your support in that way as well. So definitely looking forward to more and more of that going on for y'all showing your support in a variety of ways, but definitely any way that you can show that support, we greatly appreciate it. And we definitely look forward to you giving us a chance to see the support that you want to offer us and all of that. I had the pleasure a couple of times of seeing some great performers and some amazing performers. So I'm going to bring up the clip of a performer that was at an event that I was part of not too long ago. So I'm going to bring that clip up, and then I'm here to wrap the show up very shortly, but y'all might be enjoying checking out this young lady as she sings.
You were the word at the beginning, one with God the Lord Most High. Your hidden glory in creation, now revealed in you are Christ. What a wonderful name it is. What a wonderful name it is. The name of Jesus Christ, my King. What a wonderful name it is. Oh, nothing compares to this. What a wonderful name it is. The name of Jesus. didn't want heaven without us. So Jesus, you brought heaven down. My sin was great, your love was greater. What could separate us now? What a wonderful name it is. What a wonderful name it is. The name of Jesus Christ, my King. What a wonderful name it is. Oh, nothing compares to this. What a wonderful name it is. The name of Jesus. You have no rival. You have no equal. Now and forever, God, you reign. Yours is the kingdom. Yours is the glory. Yours is the name above all names. What a wonderful name it is. What a wonderful name it is. The name of Jesus Christ, my King. What a wonderful name it is. Oh, nothing can stand against. What a powerful name it is. The name of Jesus. The name of Jesus. The name of Jesus. The name of
If you believe the Lord deserves all the glory, honor, and praise, you ought to lift your hands. Does anybody believe that this afternoon? The simple song says this. My hallelujah belongs to you. 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 For you deserve it. You deserve it. You deserve it. You deserve it. All of the glory, say. All of the glory. Does anybody believe that? You ought to lift their hands. Can you sing that? Say all of the glory. All of the glory belongs to you. Say all of the glory. All of the glory belongs to you. Is that anybody's testimony? All of the glory, say. All of the glory belongs to you. Oh, we ought to lift our hands together and sing this. Say, you deserve. You deserve it. You deserve. You deserve it. Everything I have belongs to you. You deserve it. Yeah, yeah. You deserve it. You deserve. You deserve. Oh, does anybody really believe that? You deserve. You deserve it. Yes, sir. I got an old hymn that we used to sing in our church, and it goes something like this. Come out here now, Lord. Come out here. Come out here now, Lord. Come out here. Come out here now, Lord. Come out here. Oh, Lord. Come out here. Yes, sir. Another mother would get happy and she'd sing another verse and they'd say something like this. Somebody needs you, Lord. Come out here. Somebody needs you, Lord. Come out here. Somebody needs you, Lord. Come out here. We're singing, oh Lord. Come out. Come out here. Somebody's praying, Lord. Come out here. Somebody's praying, Lord. Come out here. Somebody's praying, Lord. Come out here. Singing, oh Lord. Come out. Come out here. Somebody needs you, Lord. Come out here. Singing, somebody needs you, Lord. Come out here. Somebody down here needs you, Lord. Come out here. We're singing, oh Lord, come out. I got one more verse out. I said we need your power, Lord. Come out here. Said we need your power, Lord. Come out here. Said we need your power, Lord. Come out here. Singing, oh Lord, stay right there. Oh Lord, singing, oh Lord, singing, oh Lord. We need you, Father. So we just can't make it without you. So we just can't make it without you. Singing, oh Lord, singing, oh, singing, oh, singing, oh, somebody down here that needs your power. Somebody down here that needs your healing. Come on, Jesus, and see about us, Lord. Even during this pandemic, we need you, Father. We need you right now. Every now and then, we get all by ourselves and we call on Jesus. We say, oh Lord, come on, Jesus. Said, come on, Jesus. Said, come on, Jesus. And see about us, Lord. Singing, oh Lord, singing, oh Lord, come by here. Yeah.
All right, folks, pretty much wrap up this edition of the online dinner party. Gave you our mystery guest, and of course, we had the Silver Fox doing her thing as well, and some great conversation and a truly amazing show. So we'll be back next week with some more shows here on the shows that we do regularly. But of course, we've got some more stuff going on this week. Now that I think about it, I've got to be appearing on noon on the Gamers Den, and look forward to that conversation with Jacoby. And I think we've got somebody from cosplay that'll be joining us on that particular show. So looking forward to that. And of course, on Saturday, we've got a show that I'm part of with my good friend Zach, and he's got his own platform, 9 on the Grind, and we'll be doing Funk from the Front Seat on that particular platform. But then we'll be back with Funk Music with Zach on Sunday, followed by the Roundtable. So the Roundtable will be taking place as well, and we'll have a great discussion about a number of things going on in society and all of that. So definitely looking forward to those conversations, among others as well. So definitely looking forward to being able to bring that to you in the very near future. And of course, we've also got a show that'll be coming up very shortly that'll be dealing with the gospel music. As a matter of fact, I need to get in touch with Coco and see who her guest is going to be for her show that she does on Facebook Live, but it sometimes is looking at possibly coming to us as well. So definitely looking forward to a great conversation with Coco and seeing what she's got coming up. And of course, as I mentioned to Nick Palbedo, one of our leaders, we've got a business coach that is doing some things as well. So Barbara H. Smith is bringing us some business coaching and had a makeup artist in the recent times and all of that. So definitely have some other programming coming our way and looking to bring even more. By the way, if you are in the field of acting or in the field of theater, we would love to have some theater productions and maybe even doing some dramas and all of that. So that's something that we might want to consider. And as a matter of fact, I might get in touch with my good friend Irvin and my good friend Ken Hinton and see if they want to do a drama production that we can then branch off into like a stage reading regular program. But maybe they'll come in and do some stage reading or something like that as part of the online dinner party, which we do every Wednesday between the hours of 4 and 7. And of course, we might be able to spin it off into a more regular production and all of that. And of course, I'm talking to my good friend Dino and seeing what he can bring us in terms of educational theater and all of that. So definitely looking forward to all of these great shows, some new shows that are coming our way and that we are trying to create on a regular basis. So definitely hope that y'all are having a grand time. Definitely enjoy what you're seeing here on our platform, and that you'll be back and checking out more of our shows on a regular basis. So in a little bit, I'm getting ready to get this airplane on out of here and all of that. I do know a lot of folks are excited about the fact of the return of baseball. And it does look like baseball is coming back. I'm seeing spring games and other things that are going on. And hopefully the Bulls will be ready to play, that being the team here in Durham in maybe May or something like that. Somebody gets to give y'all a taste of some baseball by watching a good friend of mine swinging the bat and all of that. So that's one of the ways we're going to wrap things up. And then, of course, we'll get this airplane on out of here and maybe even a couple of more spots about shows that exist. But right now, let's just get a little bit of the feel of what baseball is all about. For those of you that missed the earlier part of the show and were wondering who our mystery guests were, there were definitely three very powerful women in their own right. But one of our mystery guests was none other than Sally Ride. That's right, Sally Ride was a well-known astronaut and astrophysicist and did a lot of great work in that field and all. And so she was one of our mystery guests. Another one of our mystery guests was none other than the world-famous actress, also known as Catwoman in some of those early TV series, none other than Eartha Kitt. So Eartha Kitt was another one of our mystery guests that we had as well. And last but not least, we had none other than the 70s icon in terms of being a poster child, literally a poster child of many people's homes and all of that, none other than Farrah Fawcett. Farrah Fawcett Majors was the full name at one point or another, but definitely that was another one of our mystery guests as well. So those were our three mystery guests. Once again, that was Farrah Fawcett, Eartha Kitt, and Sally Fields. And of course, we had a number of other mystery guests doing other courses of this month as well. We've definitely been trying to celebrate the women. And of course, we got one more day of our show in Women's History Month. I'll bring you some more ladies later on that will be mystery guests as well. I know that in the past, some of our other lady mystery guests have included none other than Ella Fitzgerald. So Ella Fitzgerald was a past mystery guest, as was Madame Curie. Madame Curie was another one of our mystery guests in the past, as was Billie Jean King, and of course, political icon Barbara Jordan. So those were some of the mystery guests that we've had in the past as well. So always glad to have many of these mystery guests and give you a little bit of history and trivia about these individuals, including some powerful quotes that they may have also about some of the things that they are concerned about and all of that. Don't forget that on Sunday we've got Talking Upstream, and I always usually enjoy watching that. I've actually been away from them for a while, so I need to get better in terms of actually catching that show on a regular basis, because I used to catch it almost regularly when it was on a live production, but now that they've been recording it, I've not been as good at my 4 o'clock hour of watching it. But I need to do better than that, and I also need to get in touch with them about some projects that they were working on and some contacts that they think that I may have that can help them in that realm. So definitely need to get in touch with my friends over there, Zach and Dylan, and see what I can do to help them in their ventures. Well, if all goes well, I'll see you fine folks tomorrow twice on Thursday. I'll see y'all as part of the World News at 10 o'clock. And of course, I'll see y'all on the Gamers Den at noon. So if everything goes according to plan, I'll be seeing y'all twice on tomorrow on Thursday, and maybe even 3 times if y'all decide to check out Coco McMillan's show at 6 o'clock. So there are 3 times that I may be catching y'all on this particular evening that is about to come our way and all of that on tomorrow. So definitely look forward to some more amazing conversations and all of that. I'll have some other people taking most of the lead in terms of being the lead host and all of that, except for on the Gamers Den. I guess me and Jatopi kind of share those duties, but definitely with the news show, that's all about Steve Rao and Nick and some of the other folks that will be joining on, but I will give them some insight and some thoughts that I have. And of course, Coco show is all about Coco and the great things that she's doing in the gospel community. So definitely look forward to some great shows on Thursday, and I will catch y'all during that time. Not sure what's going on Friday. Haven't heard from Brother Mike, so don't know if he needs me for any of his mind closet stuff going on or not, but I will find that out from him. But I do know that Saturday I've got a couple of things. I've got Calvin Anderson doing a conversation around education and some of the things that he's passionate about in the evening. And of course, I've got Funk from the Front Seat with my good friend Zach and the 9 on the Grind people. And then on Sunday, I'll be back here with IBM TV, the International Broadcast Media, as we have funk music with Zach, as well as the roundtable discussion. So definitely look forward to both of those events and all of that. But right now, it's time for us to get this airplane on out of here and for us to just see if we can't fly this bad boy on out of here at this particular time. I'm sure that y'all are tired of my conversation and y'all are ready to get on to your dinner, or maybe it's a late lunch, or who knows what it is in your part of the country. It might even be a breakfast time, but y'all are definitely ready to sit back, relax, and enjoy your time of private time and not hearing Mark ramble on. So let's get this airplane on out of here.